Just
Karthik, you are mute. Your voice is not coming.
We can't hear you.
can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Huh?
can hear you now.
Okay, okay. Some mic
We can hear you
issues.
now.
Yeah,
Thank you very
we
much.
can hear you.
Yeah,
Jeffrey.
thank you. So previously, in the previous week, we got basic introduction into what exactly happens in cybersecurity. What do you mean by different jargons in there, and what are the base stuffs that we need to understand? What is a cybersecurity, right? Predominantly in this week, this is basically we're going to talk about one of the important fields called penetration testing and infrastructure security, right? Simple ways we can also talk is bug hunting opportunity. We don't usually call it as a bug hunting when you're doing at a corporate level, right? It is called as a penetration testing, and we will look into that. How it is my approach, right? Predominantly, I work as a penetration tester. I check. I definitely. It's a simple way of telling you are hacking, right? So we don't use the word hacking or cracking in corporate environment. We use penetration testing as the main thing of the, because we're trying to penetrate the application, check what is possible. Is it possible to break the application and things like that? So we'll look into that as a job structure, what exactly it is there. And penetration tester is one of those jobs, right, where I have seen it is quite neutral when it comes to your background. I've seen who have come from biology, we have done biotech, they're coming into pen testing, chemical engineering. One of the, quality pen testers out there is from a chemical engineering background. And there are guys who come from, no education background also. I've seen very good quality pen testers who have a lack of, there is no, apart from their high school degree, there's nothing much with that part. So it is very knowledge intensive, it takes a lot of effort, but it has a quite a rewarding opportunities as well. Right. So let's look into this, understand what is this, and go with that part. We'll do a little bit of what we have done in the previous week, right? To have that control, the process of moving forward for that. So basically, we're going to talk about confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? So here, basically, these are the three fundamentals of any security program that is available out there. This plays a very important role, right? Confidentiality basically means about a particular information. Only a certain amount of people can view that information. The word view is very important, meaning only who are authorized to see, right? Let's say your email, whenever you receive an email from your boss or someone, only people who are in that mail chain can see that mail. No one else will be able to see that mail. So if they either someone else is able to see that, that could be called as a lack of confidentiality or breach of confidentiality. Integrity is very much similar. In integrity, what happens is that we're able to modify the data, right? It could be modifying, meaning adding new data is also modification, deleting the data is also modification, or adding already existing data to something else is also modification. For instance, if I can change your phone number in your bank account details, right? That is also a modification. Or if I'm deleting certain information out of your bank, Then it is without authorization. That is also integrity, breach of integrity that is available out there. And final one is availability. This is a very important one. Here, there is no breach of confidentiality or there is no breach of integrity as well. Right? You're not losing any data or anything. It just prevent a normal user from accessing the data or accessing the, in a clear way you have to tell, accessing the service. Simple example we can tell is that a couple of months back there was a Microsoft blue screen where there was an issue, right? All the Microsoft all over the world, lot of Windows 11 operating system stopped from booting up. They came within some error message, and that was due to some compilation from CrowdStrike. They had some issues with that because of that. That was not a legitimate one, but that also can be taken as a loss of availability if someone can use that as a process, and it has occurred, right? We can bring down a server during, especially think about if during time of Christmas, a lot of people purchase a lot of products online as gifts and everything. What if someone loses their server during that time? If a t-shirt business who even a single day downtime in December is going to have a significant impact compared to weeks worth of downtime in some other time, right? So that is the issue with availability that we look into that part, right? So those is main thing. Again, there is also something called as a triple A. This is the second layer. It is somehow related to CIA itself. Everything that happens in cybersecurity will come back to CIA itself. you know Triple A is basic and much more, a deeper understanding of CIA itself. Yeah. So authentication, authorization, and accounting. In authentication, basically talks about what you are, right? So you are identifying yourself to the uh, system, server, or anything for that. For instance, you have a door lock, which is number enabled. You are putting a key value of that. So at that time, that is you're authenticating by entering the PIN number of that. Same thing for your mobile phone, right? So you're identifying yourself. You're entering your username and password. Authentication basically occurs in three types, right? It talks about either something something you have, or something you are, right? Something basically talks about your username and password that you remember. You put it there, or it may be a PIN number for your mobile or a door, and then you're going to get access to that, right? Something you have basically talks about your access cards. That is something you have. It's a physical token that you use to get inside or outside. In some cases, certain devices will need a physical device to get into the system or authenticate yourself. Right? In some cases, if you see a couple of years back, I don't know, they still use it or not. You used to get, for whenever you log in, you need to get a device where you put your debit card or credit card in. It will generate a PIN, and based on that PIN number, you will be able to log into a device. That is there. And something you are is basically simple way. Biometrics, same thing. What you are, that is your fingerprint, that is your face, your retina scan, and anything that comes into play. Right? That is deals about authentication. But if just because you are able to log into the application does not mean that you have access to everything, right? For instance, when you log into the bank, you cannot access your parents' banking details or your wife's banking details, your husband's banking details, or friend banking details without having a specific authorization for that. And that is called as an authorization. Authorization is a process of checking an authenticated user, okay, will have access to what resource. In a simple way we can think about is, let's say you're working in a company, you go to the main entrance in the reception area, you swipe in, right? You are able to get inside the building. That authenticate that you're an employee. But which floor you're going to have access to, it is going to change, right? A cafeteria is a place where which floor that will have everyone will have access to. But others, unless until you work in that particular floor, you will not have access to that. Meaning it is checking whether you are authorized to access. Same thing happens in your applications as well, right? And finally is accounting. Accounting plays a very important role, right? Accounting is, you can tell someone is, we need to track what activity is done by what user, right? In a large organization, in a banking environment, if there are servers, if an admin is running any root commands which require administration privileges, is going to be recorded. He is going to tell at this particular time sudo command was used by this particular admin and things like that. And that will, in the SOC, it will raise an alert. You will have to give justification for why he was running that part. Let's say if it is restarting the system, that again will require a process for that. It is not easy in those process. In some cases, in the application also, whenever you delete, that something has to be recorded as well. A log file is going to be there. That is going to be there. Okay, that is going to tell which user connected to at what time and what resource was deleted by him and how many rows are deleted for this app. Okay? This is very important. It is very important. I think long time back, I was working in a company. Uh, there, what happened was a user accidentally deleted about 10,000 lines of data. Right? But instead of coming out and telling out and try to help recover, he kept quiet because he knew that it was important data, because 10,000 lines of customers is equivalent to 10,000 customers data is lost. It's a large company, multinational company. So what happened was they were somehow able to recover the data because some other team was not able to work because the data was lost, and they were able to recover the data. But they were able to identify this particular person deleted also because there was a log in the server telling that this 10,000 entries was deleted and a particular disciplinary action was taken against that employee later stage, right? It would have been much more easier if you have done. And this could happen in this case, this person deleted by accident, but there are cases where people delete it by choice. They do it for sabotaging the companies. Sometimes they get fired. That is the reason your access is removed first before you are told that you have been let go, right? They want to prevent users from deleting data. That is the case, right? So, but my question is, right? How do you know your network or your web application is secure? How do you know that hackers cannot gain access to your services, right? How do you know that part? And that is where the VAPT comes into play, right? So in the movies and all, you might have seen there will be big bank vault and things like that. And usually they'll get someone, if you might have seen a series called White Collar, there they would have, the main hero in that is actually a thief in the past life. So they will use him to check how a thief would have come in and what are the things, the tricks they use by them and things like that. Similarly, a VAPT is going to focus on activities that is going to be done by an hacker itself, right? We are going to go there and we are going to hack the application in real time. What same tools that we are going to use by the hackers will be used by us, and do the same kind of steps, and everything is going to remain changed. The only thing that is going to just differ is the principle here, right? So what is that we are going to be doing out there with the data? Once it's compromised, a bad actor or a bad hacker is going to use it to do his own, for his gain own personal things. Whereas we are going to use the data to create a report and educate the team, telling that these are the vulnerabilities that are there, that we are going to, you need to fix it, right? So this security testing can be divided into two parts. One is vulnerability analysis and one is penetration testing. What happens in a vulnerability analysis is we are just going to focus on checking, running some scans in that, right? We are going to, assessment process used to identify and assign security level to as many security defects as possible in a given time frame, process involves automated and manual technique varying degree to rigor and emphasize on comprehensive coverage. Here, the vulnerabilities are identified, not exploited. Means usually done with some automation tools. So basically here, what is going to happen is that we will see, right? Just like a doctor will be able to identify what illness you're having based on the symptoms and doing some tests. So that is what is going to happen out here, right? We are going to run some scans on the services, on the application, on the infrastructure. And based on certain things, we are going to look into that way and tell this is what the vulnerabilities out there. But here we are not going to hack the application. That is what, and this is predominantly done when you're dealing with the real-time data, right? Usually what happens is that in a penetration testing tool where we actually go quite aggressive and try to break everything, there is a separate testing environment given to us because it will break the application, right? There are many cases recently we're doing a pen testing. They gave us the actual server itself. We told it's not a good idea. Give us a testing server will check. Testing server will be exactly the same way every setting and things. They would have cloned it. They told no, we are quite secure and things. Half an hour into the assessment, the application broke. Right? It went offline for more than a couple of hours. It took them a couple of hours and they told, okay, fine, we will stop the testing here. Tomorrow we'll have a testing server separately for that. So in those situations where we are doing actually in the production, we have to be very careful. And in those vulnerability assessment makes much more sense, right? So one of the tools most commonly used there is Nessus, right? And Nmap and Quali. Nessus and Qualis are something which we see quite used quite often. When we're doing a bit more manual, we tend to use Nmap out here. It will tell us what are the vulnerabilities and things like that. It will be very useful out there. These are in network infrastructure tools, Nessus and Quali and Nmap. They tell what are the issues or the vulnerabilities that you have in your infrastructure, right? They're going to give in that, but it will not tell from a website perspective. For understanding it tools from a website perspective, we can use Acunetics. Zap is a free version that can be used by us. It's free. It will help us identify a lot of vulnerabilities. That is one. So these are the main tools that we'll see. But here we are not actually pen testing. We are not actually putting a malicious payload, making the system crash or anything. It is going in a recent process out there, right? And most of the time we see the infrastructure level, we see VA is what being used, right? Because infra predominantly they run everything is live. And predominantly from an VA infra perspective, VA network scanner tools are pretty good. They can identify almost certainly in all the vulnerabilities that are available out there. And that is very much important, right? But from a web application, pen testing is required out there because authentication authorization is one of the things, and session management are a couple of things that cannot be automated that effectively with the tools available right now. It is getting better, with the AI. Some of these tools are using AI to make this scans much more accurate, but still there is a lot of manual intervention required in those cases, right? So here there are three major objectives in vulnerability assessment. Identifying vulnerabilities ranging from critical design flaws to simple misconfigurations. So misconfigurations and design flaws will be there. A lot of time people will use the default settings and they'll let it go. They'll use the same thing. In those times it's misconfiguration. There could be design flaws that could be identified using predominantly in applications. This will be there. Document vulnerability so developer can identify and reproduce the findings. All right. So when we give the document to the team, the development team, that this is the vulnerability that is there, they should be able to do that and they should be able to replicate in their system. You know, most of the time what happens is that once we're done with the testing, We give them the reporting. They very rarely they try to reproduce it themselves. They'll have a call with us and they'll ask us to reproduce it on the call, and we'll show them what is happening out there. Right. So that is very much important. Uh, Again, we should also be able to guide them. And most of the time, about 80% of the time, developers will be able to figure out what is happening out there. Not only developers, system administrator from an infrastructure perspective. But there are cases sometimes they will not understand how do we provide the solution, how do we fix these bugs. In those situations, we need to chip in and we sit down with them. A lot of times, even we will not be having an understanding, but it is where we do the research because we know the vulnerabilities better. We know how the application is working because the developer, we would have sat with the developer to understand that before we start the engagement, and then we'll come up with that. There are cases, certain times a standard what we give that may not be relevant. It may not be possible because the way the application is designed, and we still don't want to leave that. So we'll find a different ways of doing about it. That is there. So how do I go? Right? What is my process out there? So one stage that is not present here is the initial contact with the client. Right? The client will connect with us and give us the infrastructure information and things like that. Or what happens is that they will give us access to the network. There are two ways that is going to happen. One thing is they are going to give us an VPN access to the network. We'll sit down in the network and use it. Or what we also do is that we also get to the systems or the network on the company premise itself, and we connect our laptop to that part, and then we are connected access given for that. This happens rarely nowadays since VPNs are much more, you know, uh, relevant nowadays. A lot of organizations do have. So during this, once we are connected to the network, what we do is we do a network discovery, right? There are most of the cases nowadays, the network discovery part is not needed because the client is going to give us all the IP addresses of all the devices that need to be tested. In some cases, they would like to see what we do. They sell, an hacker will not have access to the IP addresses, right? So how does he go about that? So in those cases, this initial phase from us is going to be network discovery. We'll try to identify what net devices that are there in the network. Then once we're done that, for each device, there's something called as a ports or services running on a particular port. So we'll try to understand what's happening, what port numbers are open, and what services are running. Right? If port number 80 or 443 is open, it's a predominantly in a web application that could be running out there and things like that. So when we get information about, let's say there's an Apache version running or an SSH version is running, we're able to get hands on that. The scanner tool will have a database of all the vulnerabilities for that particular application name, right? For instance, that is going to be present out there. So vulnerability scanning and detection is going to check for that, is going to come up with that part. And once we get that, we'll try to resolve it, right? We'll come up with the mitigation technique, what is going to be there. And once this is there, all the vulnerabilities should be resolved. And again, we are going to integrate with the application and check whether the vulnerability still exists or not. Okay. And if exists, we are going to redo the process again. If it is not there, then you are going to good to go with that part. But VA is not something that is going to be over once in a while, right? It has to be repeated. A lot of organizations like banks and critical systems run their VA once in a month, right? It is important, especially for the critical infrastructure. If there's that, it has to be keep on updating again and again. That is what. So that is a continuously securing that talks about. We are going to do that. A bare minimum for an organization that VA should be done once in a year. That is the bare minimum that should is going to be there, right? So so there are cases it's within some cases they do it once in 15 days also, right? So this is what a predominantly a network scan will look like, right? Here you could see there are different critical, high, medium, low, and information. These are the different levels of vulnerabilities. So it shows which are the vulnerabilities that need to be fixed and things like that. And here you could see in generally we don't see this many. This was one of those cases where we ran. That is where you could see in the top part they're using about 54 hosts were identified, meaning 54 devices were there, and it had about 75 critical vulnerabilities, 289 high, 384 medium, and low, and information. So this is how it goes. Critical usually will have very less time to fix. In certain organization, they tell it should not be more than 48 hours. Right? Once a critical bug is identified, it should be fixed in 48 hours, nothing more than that. Right? High will have bit more time. 30 days is something. Medium will have 60 days, and low will have 90 days to be fixed. And information is something it is not going to be. It is basically telling that it is a violation of best practices, but it is not a vulnerability. It is a good idea to fix it, right? So that is what is important on that. But pen testing is where we are going to be very much interested in, right? So we have to be very careful with this part, and not all organization would prefer it, right? Because it's quite intrusive. Here we are actually simulating the attacks using exactly the same processes that is done by a normal hacker is going to do that part. We'll see how with us it's going to be there. So here there are three types of testing. One is white box, one is gray box testing, and black box testing out here. As a pen tester, predominantly we'll be working on gray box testing, right? Black box testing is rare. Is probably the more rarest from a pen tester's perspective. White box testing do occur, and white box testing do occur predominantly in a DevSecOps environment. So I'll tell you what exactly I mean out here, right? We understand what do you mean from that part. So what happens? A simple application, right? A simple application will have multiple things, right? It will have a server, it will have code, it will have other infrastructure part and things and all. A lot of things that is going to be there. Then again, it will have users also, user management and things like that. A white box testing, meaning I will have complete access to everything. Right? For instance, let's say if someone in the development team is actually doing a pen testing as well, activity as well, predominantly in a DevSecOps environment that is going to be there. You will have access to the server. You'll be able to get inside. You'll have the server login credentials. You'll be able to log in as root user and check out what are the things that is happening out there. You will have access to the GitLab and GitHub or for that code. He'll be able to look at the code as well. If there is a database, you will have access to the database and everything. Now, what you mean by white box is a complete access. Everything is going to be there, right? So predominantly, I don't work in this case. I do. There are certain clients, but most of the time, about 80%, I don't work on this. Only about 20% of my work will be in a white box. My 95 remaining 80%, right? In that 75% of the time, I'll be focused on gray box testing. So here, what is going to happen is that I don't have access to the server. I don't have access to the code. What they will give is that they will give me the URL for the website, right? This has been given, and they will give me the usernames, right? Usually what I will do is that server login is different and application login is different. Yeah. In application, there will be an admin guy. I will have two credentials for admin guy, and normal user will be there. And I have two credentials for that, And at the same time, they'll also give me a walkthrough. What do you mean by walkthrough? basically walkthrough is that a developer will sit with me or with my team. He is going to explain how the application is working. He'll tell this is the login page, you have to log in. Once you get inside the application, there are many buttons in the application. So you'll tell me what each button is doing, what is a complete flow, right? If you take a gym membership account or a website, where once the how there will be one page for enrolling a user to the gym, that is going to be the that I will test, an admin guy will be there. And once you're as a customer, you will have access. You can book classes and things, all those things. That is what is going to be given to me. This information is going to be there. See here in gray box, I don't have complete access. No complete access, right? Only partial access is given to me. That is what happens in a gray box. But in the black box, right? No info. Actually, it's almost zero info is given out there. Only thing they're going to give me is the URL, right? They want to actually check if an hacker comes into play, how this is going to be there. This happens very rarely, right? So I don't know. This is quite difficult as well, right? This is quite difficult as well because I only have a target website. I don't have username. I don't know what server it is running, what OS it is running, what code it is running, what language it is used. I don't have any information or anything. I need to build it up and from there and do it out there, right? And this is quite difficult because there are certain times you don't have access to the admin credits and things like that, right? So this is very difficult for the process, right? The reason why we don't do this process all the time is that we go with gray box is that it is not always the hacker that will gain access to the system. There's also an inside job, right? Your employees could actually be doing this activity. That also need to be covered. So hence the gray box is much more available or supported out there. That we'll see into that part. So that is what a different types of testing basically deals about. And the hacking phases are also there, right? Different hacking phases. So one is the reconnaissance phase, the scanning phase, gaining access, maintaining access, and clearing track. When we are doing in a real reconnaissance phase is more relevant when you're doing black box testing, because in reconnaissance phase, what happens is that we don't have any information about the company and things like that. So how do we collect information? All right, let's say I want to know what kind of a servers they're running. Are they running a Windows server or a Linux server? How do I know? Right? Because inside the network, I will not have access to that. So there could be is that we could go on LinkedIn, try to look at the employees, look at job postings. Are there any administrator job postings? The job posting is having a Linux administrator means they are running a Linux servers. If they're having a Windows administrator, meaning they are running Windows servers out there. And we can have much more clearer. Let's see, when we look at the employees and we look at their skill set, their certifications, and what is their job profile and things, it will give us a lot more other information, right? And we also can look at the Google Maps to get certain times, certain information and things like that. That is going to be there. But this is where we are not directly interacting with the actual devices on the company premises. This is purely doing an recon, check what is happening and doing and things like that. In a bank robbery movies and all, you will see robbers or the thief will go, they will scope out, they'll check how much time it will take for the bank police to arrive if there is some kind of an attack or anything, someone tried to steal, and where is the safe, who is responsible for the key and everything. All those things are going to be meant out there. That is the scanning is where you actually do the VA scan, vulnerability analysis and things like that, where we are getting much more direct information. You're actually connecting to the servers, connecting to the network and trying to gain access. Right? That is what, and we'll identify vulnerability during this case, right? Trying to identify vulnerability in this case. And if something there is there, vulnerability that could be exploited, that is going to be exploited. That takes you to the next phase, that is gaining access, right? You will gain access to the server. and you are able to steal data. This is where predominantly most hacks stop, right? They've gained access and they're able to receive this information and things like that. That's going to be there. But sometimes what is going to happen is that they don't like to low, right? There is a vulnerability that because of that vulnerability, I'm able to gain access for that. Let's say there was a FTP smiley attack. That particular version of FTP was vulnerable, which gave anyone complete access to the file system. So they were able to take up with that part and all. Right. So similarly, we'll have some kind of an application where we can gain a root access to the server. But VA scans go quite often and they might fix it, right? When they fix this vulnerability, we will no longer have gain access to that because that vulnerability cannot be exploited anymore because it got fixed. In order to overcome this scenario, what they will do is they will try to maintain access. This could be like creating a backdoor and do a lot of activities and things. In one case, what happened was a server was hacked, and hacker what happened was that he created a user inside with the root privileges, with the pseudo privileges, and kept quiet, right? And that actually the vulnerability got fixed. And after 4 years, they identified that someone had created, and that guy was stealing data for 4 years, right? Even though it was server was patched and everything was secure, they forgot to review that process, right? So that is maintaining access. And clearing tracks basically, as I told, accountability. For every action, there's a log is going to be generated, and that is going to be processed by certain machines and certain applications. If I delete the logs before it goes to the analytics part, no one will know that the system was hacked. Clearing tracks is something happens very rarely. It only occurs in a big, large hacks, and most of the time we don't see much. Maintaining access we are seeing nowadays, right? So that is going to be there. So any questions till now? Right? Any questions till now?
No questions. Hello?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Talk about the reconnaissance stage of the answer. I try to struggle with the information you provided at that stage. So I didn't hear properly, so I was lost there, so I believe.
I didn't. I think your voice is breaking. I'm not able to understand your question.
Hello?
Hello, your voice is breaking.
Hello?
Medan, any idea what he was asking about?
No, even
I
Lady.
said you talked about the reconnaissance stage.
Can you type the question in the chat?
Yeah, it will be better if you can, text it, because it is very hard for us to understand your question.
Yes.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah,
Yes,
Jeffrey.
please.
Yeah, my question is on the scanning stage. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, I can hear. Please go ahead.
Okay. You listed lots of scanning tools, Nmap, Nexus, Zap, etc.
Yes.
Okay. Can a ethical hacker or a security analyst just use one, focus on just one, or is it possible for him to know all?
Predominantly, they are going to work on one of those tools, right? So what happens is that these tools are license based. The organization will look into them. They will have these licenses for that. It will predominantly work in a similar pattern itself. It is just like, are you going to learn just to use a Firefox browser or Chrome browser or Edge browser? All of them will have a similar, about 90% in the way it operates. It's going to be very similar. There are certain things that is going to be varying of the small sections out of it, right? So based on the basic scan and the VA scan and whatever the things that could be run, all of them, we need to understand how it works in the background. But if you understand one tool, it is not going to take much time for you to migrate to another tool. Meaning, if Nmap is something, it's a very text mode. It is predominantly used by pen testers. It is not very specifically used at an enterprise level. There are certain organizations, they will ask you to do a manual pen testing of the infrastructure. At that time, they don't consider Nessus tools or quality tools outputs out there. The reports of them is not going to be supported. In those cases, only we'll use Nmap. Nessus, if you learn how to use Nessus, you will be able to understand how to use Quali. And if you're using Quali, it will be able to understand how to use Nessus, right? As a security analyst, if you're doing VA, you're working predominantly in the infrastructure part. When I spoke about Acunetics or ZAP, that is at an application level. That is predominantly done by the development team. You're not, if you're part of a development team, looking at the code, looking at the application, that is when you'll work on those two tools out there, right? There's something called as a NetSparker. There are quite a few web application scanner tools out there. The one most commonly used are those two. So that is there. In DevSecOps, nowadays they are preferring to use ZAP because they can put the, instead of manually scanning the application every time for web application vulnerabilities, they can put it in the CI/CD pipeline only. So it will automatically scan and give a report for them. So that is what happens. So that is what we do in our main course. We set it up and we'll see how ZAP is going to be useful for that part. Yeah, hopefully it's resolved.
Thank you.
Better.
Yes, I have a question as well.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay. So basically, it's on the scanning. Tell me how do you calculate the timing? Like, how do you know that I should put timing 1, 2, or 4?
See, when you're going to put the timing out there, for instance, you're talking about Nmap is what I guess, right? Because you'll have T1 to T5 out there. We have to see what is the payload that you're going to push out there. And predominantly, what happens is that when you are going to scan a large network, for each network, you cannot do top 1000. By default, Nmap runs a top 1000 ports for each of the devices that is there. And that is not going to cut in a real-time application, because what happens in real time, they will change the default ports, right? For instance, SSH may be running on 22 in most cases. It is my security recommendation. It should be moved from a default port and to put to some other port, a random port that's going to be there. So whenever I'm doing an Nmap scan, I will have to scan all 65,000 ports. Okay. And that includes both TCP scan for 65,000 ports, UDP scan as well, because you'll never know there is some information in a UDP scan as well. So this is going to take a lot of traffic out there. Okay. And if you put it at T5, this is going to cause, actually it will be, we can consider it as a DDoS attack. It could actually break the application, right? That is one thing. This is basically, this is happening because we have already informed the team that we are going to do scans on this particular time. Okay. So they'll be expecting, but still it will bring down the application. At that time, it is good to learn, go with T3 or a low speed, medium speed scans like that is what I would suggest. But more predominantly, thinking about T1 to T5 is that we will have to ask the development team or the infra team out there, what would be an ideal time to do the scans for them, right? So you have to interact, because when they'll give you the infrastructure that need to be tested, they're going to give out the timing when it's going to be there. So usually when we do scans, it is going to be off hours. If it is an application used by the employees, we are going to do the scans in the night. We have to burn the midnight oil and run the scans, or in some cases over the weekend, right? At that time, even if your scans break the application or the server, you'll have time to bring it back up without affecting the application. The users, actual users out there. So usually we'll see over the weekend and in the night for the weekend over the night for that, right? So that's how it works. That's it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome. Any more questions, guys? Any more questions?
Or we can
Hello,
take
I
that.
saw. Hello.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
saw
James.
one. I saw a video at some time. What web? We're using what web. So I want to ask: is what web part of scanning or reconnaissance? And also, when scanning, won't the network, the administrator, get notification that someone is trying to like get information from them, or is it going to be discreet? Thank you.
So it depends. It entirely depends on a lot of things, right? First of all, if they have any kind of a dashboard for monitoring process, they will get that information, right? So once happened, what happened was there is a web page. The login page did not have any kind of a rate limiting. I tried more than 1 million passwords and one of them clicked and I was able to log into the application and break it, right? This breaking 1 million password, it took a long time. Probably because the server was low, I had to send million requests and I see the response and things like that. In this case, there was no mechanism by the team to monitor the application. Are they getting too much traffic? Are they getting too many authentication failure or things like that? That is not there. So they were not able to see and I was able to get inside that, But at the same time, there are many clients who will track this, right? So what happens is that as soon as you enter 5 wrong passwords, your application gets locked. And immediately you'll get a call from the team telling that you enter the wrong password. Are you sure? Are you the person who is trying to log in or someone is trying to crack into your system account, right? So all these things entirely depends on the team's defense mechanisms or what are the appliances they're having out there and things like that. A large organization, I told, or a critical organization, they will have something called as the security operation centers. And there, even just by plugging a Wi-Fi dongle can generate an alert, right? It will take you to you'll, unless until you're directly connected to the system, you will not be able to do any activities without VPN and things. Again, the security is expensive in those situations, but that is how it goes. So it depends. Are you managing? Are you checking accountability or not? Right. So if someone is checking the accountability and what is that, that can be done. Especially as I told, in those situations, what we do is that we bring down the scanning rate to very low, right? So we take it, if you're actually doing a black box testing, the team will get more time to work. There, what we do is that we, instead of doing 65,000 port scans in a single go, we break it into 10 ports each and every time, and then we'll go one by one, right? We'll try to understand process and things. All those things will be there. It's a bit more complicated when that happens, but most of the time, small organizations will have very little mechanism to detect attacks, right? So the way they design the application has to be important at that time. That's what. Hope that answered your question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yes.
please.
Can I talk? Is someone talking?
Yeah, please.
Yes. To get Nexus, are you able to get the free one, the free version, or do you need to purchase one?
For the Nessus part,
Yes.
you will need to, I think you will get a free version for it, community edition, but there's a limitation. You can only scan only one IP with that part, right? So if you want to practice scanners and scanning things on your open, you can use something called as a OpenVAS out there. There's a tool called OpenVAS. You can use it. It provides a similar support. What happens in real time is that the difference between a free tool and a paid tool is going to be the time taken to update to the latest vulnerabilities, right? And OpenVAS will give you the latest vulnerabilities. Let's say there's a new vulnerability identified today. A Nessus or a Quali will have a scan ready for it by tomorrow morning, right? And it will be able to check for that. Whereas when you talk about OpenVAS, since it is free, people are working on it for in their free time. It will probably take about a week's time for that. Why? Because all of them will have a similar database. So for you to practice, understand how scanning works and to mitigate and check all those things, OpenVAS is a good place to start.
Okay.
Yes. Security as a defense, that is what we have to be careful when what we do from a DevSecOps perspective training. We do both offensive and defensive. I would typically call it a purple course, right? When you are doing hacking, it is called as a red teaming. When you are defense, it is called as a blue teaming. When you combine both, you will get purple. That is what we do. We talk about in the course what is a Linux and Linux services, what a typical admin guy or a DevSecOps engineer would see, and how do we secure those services out there, right? So we'll look into that. And then again, we'll also look from an application pen testing perspective. What are the different WAS top 10s that is there? Can we hack in their application? What are the difference can be broken out that's going to taken? And then we'll see again how to have a CI/CD pipeline from a DevSecOps perspective. Yeah, that is there. Yes, Jeffrey, you were. So, Menon, you would like to add anything before we continue?
Yeah. So should we take a 5 minutes break or should we continue?
Yes, I think we can take it. Yeah, Menon, what we are going to do? We should we take a break for 5 minutes?
Yeah, I think that will be great.
Okay. We'll just
Meanwhile,
continue. Come back. Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, if you guys have any other question, feel free to ask.
Not for now.
That's great. And please
I
remember,
would just like to ask about
yeah,
I would like to ask about the IP about the target IP address.
I think Mr. Karthik is the best one who can answer. Wait
Yeah,
for
please
2 or
let
3
me.
minutes.
No,
Because
you can tell me.
yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, let's say that my target IP address is myself. How would that work?
I didn't get you. Come again. Target IP address is?
Let's say just for practice, I don't have any other devices, so I'm using my own IP address for target practice.
Mm-hmm.
Is that possible?
Yes. So it is, see, predominantly in IP addresses, if you're having a public IP address, a single IP address is totally fine. Let's say a lot of the cases, what happens is that when we do infrastructure scanning and things, there'll be a single IP only. Their AWS server they're running out there, and it will have an IP address. From that, it is going to be connected with that part, right? So that is how it will do. In some cases, if you are trying to connect to a system which is behind a firewall and you're having only one server which is having a private IP address which cannot be routed over that, in those situations, what is going to happen is that we will not be able to do traditional scans out there, right? First of all, we will have to remote access to that server because it is in a private network, either by a VPN or by like tools like AnyDesk or anything like that, we'll connect to those systems and then we'll manually do some other things out there. Meaning in a Linux environment, we can check certain commands will help us out with which ports are running out there. That is going to help us out. And since we already have access to the system, we can even see the versions of it. We can go to the settings, configuration, and look and check for configuration. That is going to be a different approach for that part.
Mm.
So IP addresses is predominantly it's not going to be it again. It depends whether can you access or that's the thing.
Mm. So, for my last question for this session, should we all move to Linux? Because here we speak about Linux mostly.
If you're what happens that Linux is useful, very useful out there. Main reason is when you're running your lot of tools and things for security purposes, it is designed for Linux out there. And about 80% to 90% of all servers that are used in the world are run on Linux services, right? What I have seen, the only place where we are using Windows Server for the application is very limited. For every 20 to 30 applications I test, one of them may be a Windows Server. Predominantly, they're used in Active Directory, managing user desktop username and password access for that. They use Active Directory servers and Windows servers are very good for that. That is bad. But having a good understanding of Linux helps you out very well.
Okay, thank you, sir. Understood.
Please, will it be wise for me to download the Linux, or I should based on Kali Linux, the Debian form? I don't know, because some it's only on Linux.
I would prefer, so a lot of people would go and install Linux in a dual boot environment. I would usually prefer them to go with something called as a VMware workstation, right? So let me show you. And this is what we do in our real-time example, labs, what we do. So I can run multiple Linux operating systems inside my system only, right? I can practice Kali Linux, I can practice Ubuntu and things like that. If you're someone, right, if you're someone running the services, I would suggest Ubuntu. If you want to practice hacking, I would suggest Kali Linux. Yeah. Just give me a second. Just give me a second, guys. 1 second.
So it's fine if you have a virtual machine.
Yes, I'm back. Sorry. Let me know. Any more questions?
Yes, I was saying, so that means if you have a virtual machine, it's fine. You don't need to install Ubuntu and stuff.
Exactly. And I would suggest to go with virtualization. The main reason for having a virtualization is, sorry, if you make any mistake out here, it is quite easy for me to delete it and spin up a new virtual machine, right? Configuration things and all, it will reduce your time of troubleshooting, right? You can start in things and all. But if you have manually installed it on your system, if something goes out, reinstalling Linux can be really difficult. And sometimes you could actually lose some data as well if you don't install it properly, right? So this helps you out, and you can see that I have multiple virtual machines out here and each for different scenarios, right? It will help you, right? So there is no difference in my case between Ubuntu and Kali Linux. The
Sorry,
only
Karthik,
difference yeah.
are you sharing?
Oh, you're not seeing the screen? 1 second. Let me share. Thank you.
Okay.
So for instance, if you could see here, for me, there is no difference as a Linux user. In Kali and Ubuntu, everything works exactly the same. All commands will work and things and everything. The only difference is that in Ubuntu will not come with a pre-existing pen testing tools, right? Whereas in Kali Linux, if you log in, you can see the left side, there's a dragon symbol. When you click on it, you have a lot of tools. It comes pre-installed. So if I'm able to install those tools in Ubuntu, Ubuntu can also be used for pen testing. Kali Linux will come around with about 700 plus tools for pen testing, right? And to be frank, we don't use that all those tools out there. There are certain tools I use for my activity when in my organization when I'm pen testing or hacking the devices. I use predominantly is Windows, right? The main reason is the important tool for me for hacking a web application is my browser, right? There are certain add-ons that are there in my browser that is important. And there's one more tool called as a burp that I use it for my pen testing activity. So since that is running on Windows, that is more than that. But still I use my Kali Linux for running certain tools. There's something called as, WAF woof and things and all. WAF woof is something like checking whether the website is having a firewall or not, web application firewall is there or not. So those kind of tools will not run in Windows, right? So the reason why I prefer Windows is that end of all pen testing engagement, there is the most difficult task of all, that is the reporting part, right? There we need to collect evidence. For that, we will need Microsoft Office. Without Office, there is LibreOffice, but it is not going to be difficult doing that. Just for that Office purpose, I would prefer using the Microsoft Windows. Otherwise, you can do pretty much output with that. If you're new to Linux, I would not suggest to start with Kali. Start with Ubuntu. Install and go practice and things. Learn to do the services, right? Understand how exactly it's happening. That will help you out a lot. Right? And VMware Workstation is also free for personal use. Recently VMware got acquired by Broadcom, and Broadcom made it free for personal use, so you can download the ISO and things like that. So that is what we do in our class, right? So because predominantly what you do in Linux in your desktop is what you're going to do on your cloud machine as well, or whatever that is going to be. That's how it goes. Hope that was useful. So any more questions?
So for practice, VMware is enough, right, sir? For if I get a job in a company, I have to use Linux, real Linux.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
So
VMware,
then,
see.
Okay. Yeah, please continue. Please continue.
So then I need to learn this one. After VMware, I need to learn Linux. There is no option.
Yes. If you're, what kind of job openings are you looking at?
No, I'm a fresher right now. I'm looking for DevOps. I'm very interested in DevOps.
Yeah.
So I asked a question. Should I install Linux? Okay, like that.
Yes. Yeah. So in those situations, learning Linux is very much important. That should be a priority one. Okay. So DevOps is always built on Linux itself. For DevOps, Docker plays an important role. 99.9% Docker is installed on Linux only, right? And even if you're running your Docker image on Windows, the underlying Docker image will 95% and almost 100% will be a Linux image only out there. So learning to understand what is the Linux services, not only Linux commands and things, you have to focus on what we do in the main course. We focus there. How do we install web application? We'll see how do we configure web server? how do we configure an SSH server, right? So SSH server is something when you're in a remote server, how do you connect that and then you control that system out there? And we see other services like FTP and Microsoft MySQL and things like that. So how that is working, and then how you focus on the firewall and things and all. So all those things will help you with managing the part out there. So Linux will help you out. It's a bit cheaper. Uh, Virtualization VMware Workstation is just an underlining application on top you are installing, right? It is also user friendly for you to do networking part also. For instance, if you can see here, I can try to communicate two devices also using VMware. Okay, so I can try to see, let's say this, I'm trying to open, there is a web server running on this machine, right? So I can try to open
Yes.
that web server is working on here.
Oh,
129
inside that you
belongs
are
to,
opened.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So this is the IP address you can see. I have config. This Linux Ubuntu machine IP address is 128.172.129. I can open here and check it out. So these are all done in our main course. We'll go through that part and things like that.
Okay.
Here I would add one thing from my end. Uh, See, Linux is like a fundamental thing of cybersecurity as well as in our DevOps culture. Now, Linux does not come as a DevOps um, directly, but to make our students ready for DevOps job role and make them a market ready. If you check our main course module, there are two modules are there. One is Linux, one is AWS. Because if you want to be a DevOps engineer, you have to have expertise on Linux as well as any one of the cloud or maybe multiple cloud.
Yes.
And that is the reason, though the Linux and DevOps, Linux and the cloud is not direct part of the DevOps, but without that two things, you cannot understand, you cannot learn, and you cannot get the job. And to face that thing in our DevOps, the main course that is a 7 weeks daily 2.5 hours. The first 15 days we are covering Linux from scratch to more than fundamental and AWS cloud. And luckily our plan got success tremendously. And after you complete our DevOps training, if you want to move to cybersecurity or DevSecOps position, this particular 3 or 4 tools which we have already covered in our DevOps training, like Linux, AWS cloud,
In the
Docker,
main course.
yeah, and CI/CD. Actually, we are also going to cover those stuff like surface wise in our free course as well. And that is the reason our DevOps sessions, free sessions, are 8 weeks, 8 Saturday sessions, because there are lots of things to cover.
So I need to install Linux now.
Yes. Yes. So are you from US or India?
I'm from India.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
Without
a lot
Linux,
of things
you cannot.
Yeah, without Linux it's quite difficult. Yes.
Okay.
And
Thank you,
again,
sir.
you're welcome. Again, I think a lot of people will like to come into DevSecOps. If you don't have pretty much good understanding with DevOps, it becomes a bit more challenging to do the DevSecOps part. So if you are joining the course, I would suggest first do the DevOps part and then do the DevSecOps. It makes things much more easier. It saves you a lot of time and a lot of confidence level also. It's going to be, you'll be able to much more better attend interviews when you do that both.
Okay.
Now you can just try to understand from the name, from it's DevSecOps. So developer security ops. So in DevSecOps name itself, it is saying you have to know DevOps and then security.
Okay.
Just a funny fact. Any other question? Or we should start again, resume our today's session on the pen testing. Okay then. Yeah, Mr. Karthik.
Yeah. So now we saw what are the different hacking phases that could occur out there. But again, we should also know what is that it is in our hand, right? If there's a vulnerability, what is that we can do to mitigate that vulnerability and things like that. So in my career, when I'm looking at different page and identifying vulnerabilities, hacking and things and all, I can differentiate these vulnerabilities in three phases. So vulnerabilities can occur in three different locations. One is the vendor software, other is configuration file, and third one is the code itself, application code itself. So vendor software is the location where a development team or any company will be able to do nothing about it. If there's a vulnerability, they will not be able to fix it. Only way they can fix it is either to update to the latest version of the software or to remove that software entirely so that the mitigation is done. Because the reason is I don't have access to the source code for that part. I cannot do anything about that part. Okay. So that is why it is always important for us to constantly check, is there any new vulnerabilities available for that or new updates that is done out there, and then go ahead with that part. Right. And in one of the organization I worked, they had a particular web application firewall. It was built on top of Ubuntu and it was dependent on Python. Right. So all of a sudden what happened was the Python, there was a security vulnerability that came into play and they told we can't run those services on the cloud anymore. We can't sell that product on the cloud anymore because our product had a vulnerable Python. There was no issue with our code or anything, but still we could not continue. And the problem was when we updated the Python version, there were certain functions that were no longer supported. So it was a bit of an issue. We had to rewrite certain part of the application to match to the latest version and things. And that is a major problem. That is one of the reasons a lot of companies, even though they know there's a vulnerable version, they don't change it or update it because the application is going to break. But in my case, I think it is important that you have a better approach to how do you manage this kind of an activity. Right? But vendor software is something you can't do anything about. You have to sit with that part. The second part is the configuration files. Right? Configuration basically deals about how the application is set up. Right? Who can have access to that and things and all. For instance, you can tell it is not a good security practice to allow a root access of the server from a remote machine, meaning inside the system you can connect directly, physically log in as root user, but via an SSH you should never give root access for that. In some cases they might have configured it wrong. They might allow it to give root access for that. Right? There could be a lot of things that is going to be there. Configuration file management can be identified using going through checklists. Right? See, as benchmark checklists are there. Certain times what could happen is that, let's say I'm installing certain software or certain Linux operating systems that will come with a default, right? That will come with the default certain products out there. So that is not needed. So we have to be careful to go back and check and remove all unwanted softwares and things and all. That is where a configuration file that comes into play, right? In some cases in databases, they will have default username and passwords. They will have other situations that could be done. That can be problematic. Okay. Configuration file management security vulnerabilities is usually fixed by the network or system administrator. It does not deal much with developers, right? Any development team will have two parts. One is the operations team and who are managing how to do that, and the development team is also there. So the operations will take care of that part, configuration. But when it comes to web application code, right, that is where a developer will have complete access over to mitigate that part out there. Okay. right? It could be an XSS attack or an SQL injection attack or an SSRF attack, or things like that. That can be overcome by properly writing the code perspective of that, right? So in a simple way, vendor software company will not, or the team will not have anything to do with the mitigate that risk. Only thing they can do is they can prevent, update the software. They have very little say in that. But the other two, configuration file and application code, they'll be able to make modifications to that part, right? So this is what we spoke. In recent times, we have seen automation, AI in cybersecurity, but it is still in a very early stages of it, you know. So automation describes a wide range of technology that reduce human intervention in process, mainly by predetermining decision criteria, sub-process relation access. This is and embodying those predetermining in the predeterminations in the machines. That is what is an automation about. Official definition for that. An official definition for artificial intelligence is ability of a computer or computer controlled robot to perform tasks that are commonly associated with the intellectual process characteristics of a human, right? I personally believe, right, automation is basically certain set of steps that is going to be repeated. And AI is the ability to take a decision and what decision that's going to be there, right? And the intelligence, what we talk about is again, there's a difference, right? What do you mean by intelligence? Because a intelligence at an Einstein level is different and an intelligence at a chimp level is different. But both of them are intelligence itself, right? There's no difference. They are an higher intelligence and a lower intelligence, but still certain intelligent activity is being done out there, right? So that is why we have to be very careful about when we're using the term artificial intelligence out there. Based on what I have seen in my understanding, I personally feel automation is like a washing machine, right? You're taking in human task, which is a repeated human task again and again, and giving it to a machine to be performed, right? So here, what happens here is that in automation, I have to complete. Yes,
Karthik,
yes.
sorry for you. Mr. Dev, can you please stop the video if possible? Because it is, if it is not an issue.
Sorry, Miran, did you say something to me?
No, no, I'm talking about Mr. Dev
Yeah.
Paul. Yeah,
Okay.
can,
Okay, I'm just trying to, I don't know, it's showing it is off. You can see my screen, is it?
no, I can
I
see
can't.
your video, like your camera is on.
Yeah, let me. Okay, just go ahead. I'll try to do it.
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Karthik. Yeah, sorry for
Actually,
interruption.
I'm in the MS meeting.
Yeah, you are in Microsoft
Microsoft
Teams meeting,
team meeting.
but your camera is on. I
Yeah,
don't know. Yeah, you are aware of that or
yeah,
not?
let me
No issue,
see
not
the.
at all. Take your time, not an issue. Yeah, Mr. Karthik. We can
Yeah.
continue.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. So predominantly we see automation is that as a simple washing machine, what we can tell, we are automating our day-to-day washing process into that. But in automation, in a washing machine, everything has to be pre-specified. I have to decide looking at the clothes, what type of a wash it's going to be. It's going to be daily wash or something. It's a kids, the baby cloth wash, or it's going to be very dirty clothes and it has to be much more intense wash. How much time I'm going to do and what is the cloth type, rinse cycle and things. Every
Is my
decision has
video
to
gone
be.
now?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So, well, so every decision has to be made earlier before an automation has to start, right? So everything you are going to take this decision out there, that's what it's going to do. Whereas in artificial intelligence nowadays, you're seeing the washing, one of the things where we see is that your refrigerators or your washing machines are getting intelligent, right? There are certain AI intelligence being added to that. There's a lot of things that could be done, you know. So if all the decision is made by the machine, then it is going to be an artificial intelligence. For instance, when we are putting this dispensing detergent out there, nowadays there are machines that will automatically decide based on the content, right? So what is the water content, how much it is going to be there. Then again, it is looking at the quality of the water, and based on that, the decision is going to be made, and more and more. So as we go further, the more intelligence it's going to become. It is all you have to do is that you have to put the clothes inside, and it is going to decide everything on its own, and it is going to give the clothes out, right? Same thing will happen in real time for us, right? And currently, when you're talking about CI/CD pipeline or things into that, artificial intelligence is not into play, right? So what is going to happen is that every step is predetermined. I'm going to tell what needs to happen, and these are the steps. If something goes wrong, what should happen? If goes right, what should happen? Everything is done. That is where we are looking at the automation. And this is what happens in our intelligence gathering and network security practices as well. You know, for pen testing activities, still a lot of automation work is there. But as we are moving further, right, there is a significant research that is happening in the background, especially DARPA from US Defense. They are working on real-time applications and artificial intelligence where it will identify vulnerabilities on the system on the go. And not only that, it will also fix those vulnerabilities on the go as well, right? There's a still lot, long way to go, but there is a lot more process that is happening out there. There's a baby steps that is happening, but we are going to see, we should keep an eye open for these tools that are coming in and how AI is going to be used here as well, right? That is what. So what are the current challenges in offensive security? When you talk about offensive security, is predominantly pen testing and things like that. So your attack surface is expanding here. So meaning, think about if you go 10 to 15 years back, companies did not have work from home. All of them were using desktops. Only the senior management used to get laptops at that time. And the attack surface was less, meaning there was only one server and from where it is going to work out. Nowadays, getting into a company, the attack surface has increased. So meaning server is there. I can hack an employee's laptop. I even hack his mobile phone and get inside a company. I can gain inside a company using your email. Then again, apps are there, mobile apps that can be used, that can be done in there. And work from home option, right? They're no longer directly connected to the company network. They're connected to a public facing network via that it is there. So that is going to be an issue, right? So then again, advanced threats are coming up, new threats that is coming into play. We have to be very careful with that, not only from a technical point of view, from a social engineering point of view also. We are engaged with companies where companies reach out to us to perform a phishing attack, right? They'll tell, we want to check how our employees are good at identifying a spam, are they clicking on that or not. So what we do is that we do a lot of collect about information about company employees and things. We have customized messages for that, which will have a higher click rate, but there are certain basic things they will not look into. They're just looking at the message, they'll click. And there are certain cases where they would have given company credentials as well. So that is also we need to take into account, right? Diversity of assessment, there is constantly changing, different assessment that needs to be done. Previously, only infrastructure testing was enough. Nowadays, you have to do infrastructure testing, then you have to do cloud pen testing, then you have to do web application, then you have to do mobile, then you have to do API, and now introduction of DevSecOps and the pipeline also need to be secure, right? So what are the different things and things? And then again, how do you assess that is also changing is there, right? And again, adapting to dynamic environment. For large organizations, this is bit less important because what happens is that they will have a predetermined set. Companies like large companies like Amex or Cisco or anything, they will have a predetermined security posture. This is how they're supposed to follow and things like that. And anything new adaptation has to be tested before. So it is dynamic, but not to that level. They follow a much more basic structure. But it is in the small to medium organization which are growing, adapting to dynamic environment is going to be difficult. Why? Main thing is the team is growing as the organization is going to be successful. It's going to add more people into that. The team is growing. They will need new equipments, new approach, new way of doing things. So they have to constantly adapt to that environment as well. That is one thing. And balancing automation and manual testing. Automation can, in the current instance, cannot replace manual testing, right? The main reason is the lack of intelligence that is there. Looking out whenever we do normal lot of automation scans, there is a lot of false positive in scans, right? And the main thing is, even though there is no vulnerability, they will identify something as vulnerability. There's still a manual intervention that is required out there. On top of that, there is a limitation to do that. There are certain things that has to be manually tested. Those things we have to go with manual testing, right? Then again, tools that can be used, whether these tools can be customized and things and all. It makes it bit different. It not only talking in terms of pen testing perspective, tools that is going to be coming up, right? We are seeing in DevSecOps, the tools are constantly changing. I think Jenkins is one place where there is little bit of stability because a lot of tools, older tools support is good. But you see in the newer versions, the tools are constantly evolving and things they still need. It is not as stable as the DevOps tools that are available out there, right? Finally, there is a communication and reporting, right? Reporting is very, very important in cybersecurity, right? Because in history forgotten is a history repeat is going to happen on that. If we forget our history, there's chances that it is going to repeat. Meaning, if we forget our past mistakes, those mistakes are going to be done again. So reporting and communicating properly is very important to the development team, and reporting is also going to help team with the future team, because let's say I identify a vulnerability and the current team is going to know, and next future application development, they're going to fix it. They know what is going to happen on that. But let's say as time passes, the people in that team move out of that team and works on different team, and new people are coming in. They will not be aware of that bugs that were there in the previous. So they might repeat. If there's a report available, they'll be able to go through it and understand what can be done out there. Right. And finally is data analysis and threat intelligence. Here we have to look at from a design perspective what vulnerabilities could occur out there and try to mitigate, bring out, clear the vulnerabilities at an earlier stage itself. Analyze the data, what is the vulnerabilities there, and look into that part. These are difficult things that is going to be there. Security is going to be very difficult, right? And your AI intelligence is going to future. It is going to help you with this part, then it will help you out automatically trigger certain actions. Let's say someone talk about what if there's an attack, and will there be some way for an administrator to mitigate that attack. Some attack out there. So for the attack to occur and for that attack to be given to the administrator, and administrator taking a necessary action, right? For that, multiple things has to happen, right? And there's a time involved. Again, the competency of the administrator also comes into play. What kind of an action that is going to be taken, and is it correct or not, right? This is where an AI is going to be helpful. is going to be able to do the better task. It can identify there's an attack happening out there. It will be able to take a decision. I think right now we have something called as an IDPS, which is an automated task. It has a set number of activities when there's an attack. But what if it can be do a better intelligence out there, right? So that is how it is going to do, and it will understand better, right? Especially, I'll tell you what happens was there was an attack vector that they had a huge list of log files, right? In a traditional approach, it took about 40 days to analyze, and only after the 40 days they were able to understand how the hacker got into the system, because the data was so huge, so many log files. It took about 40 days to do that activity, right? So next came in the big data analytics out there with little bit of intelligence involved out there. Not too much. It took same thing in a 4 hours time. Same task was done in 4 hours time. Think about if you can introduce AI in a real time, we'll be able to even reduce that 4 hours to a couple of minutes or even seconds, or it can be instantaneous, right? So this is where the research is going towards an AI agent that is going to take into account, and it is going to do that part of that, you know. Predominantly how it is going to here, a lot of things can be done by AI, and again it has to be done what is that you're actually going to do, you know. So either are we going to do manually, are we going to do, you know, AI is going to do this part, so that can be done. So for instance, AI looking at, it can do a reconnaissance by itself, it can do scanning and things. Then looking at that, whatever the information it received, it can come up with a planning for that. How do you do with that part? And then also it will tell what is the attack vector that can be done. See, here we're not talking about defense. Here we're talking about attack as well. And AI will be able to come up with a plan how to attack an application, right? More than this is happening quite a lot. Bad guys are using more. As we saw earlier in previous session, state actors like, or intelligence agencies, country intelligence agencies are more keen on getting AI into offensive security, right? So once this planning is happening, there needs to be an approval from the user. A manual user has to be done for executing the attack. And once attack is done, it will, the output is again given to the AI out here. The AI will look at the analysis, look at the result, then it is going to tell, okay, fine, there's some modification I can do. Let me replan it, then re-execute the planning, reasoning, have a plan ready out there, and this process can go on out there, right? This is going to reduce human interaction. AI is going to stay, right? It is not something it's going to, but it is not, I personally think it is not going to be as aggressive as people are thinking. There is an time taken for that. We might see a lot of AI in voice and pictures and things creation, because that lot of work has been happening for a long time in that, right? There's a lot of automation work is happening before they were able to add little bit of intelligence. And again, more people use it and the more it is going to get effective. But when it comes to cybersecurity, less people are using it, so it will take time, but it will still be there, right? There's a huge research that is happening going on there, right? So all different tasks can be done by AI security testing out here. So identify potential entry point in different stages and things. I think hopefully I feel it should be more prioritized in report generation because what happens, it's really difficult. I think I almost quit my pen testing job because of reporting once. It can be really difficult, because I test. There are applications where I finish pen testing and checking very vulnerabilities in 3 days, and I'll be sitting on the report on 2 days doing nothing, trying to see the sentencing, aligning, and things. Hopefully, we'll have a tool for that, AI based. But other stages also it is good to put up there, right? A AI tool can be used to do reconnaissance. We can give a target website. It will do a Google search, look at all the different places, will collect as many information possible, analyze what could be the threat landscape are we looking at, right? And come up with a plan how to test it. Then again, when we give out vulnerability scanning, it could automatically adapt, right? In most of the cases, we will have to fine tune it, whether it's the Linux or Windows, we're looking at certain things, and then certain times we have to redo those scans in a pen testing approach. That may be done by the AI itself, right? Then analyzing it also, certain attacks are not directly vulnerable. We have to combine 2 to 3 vulnerabilities to make a bigger one. That is where automation scans are not. They'll tell there are 3 low-level vulnerabilities, but hacker will know that if I combine those 3 things, I can get an high or critical vulnerability. I can even have a compromise. That cannot be done by the automation tools, right? So vulnerability analysis, root cause, what exactly is can AI is going to be there. And I personally feel exploitation is something is of a gray area, right? A machine is going to decide how do you hack into these devices, coming up with a plan, but it is happening. It is happening in real time. You have to be good with that part, right? It has a much more bigger impact as a society if your not in your favor comes up with this kind of a capability, right? They can, because think about, we technically always think pen testing websites and things like Amazon shopping carts and things and all. What happens if someone hacks into a nuclear power plant, right? What happens if someone hacks into a dam, right? They can open the dam doors, flood cities, towns, kill thousands of people. All those things is possible, right? So we have to be good with that, and AI is going to help you out with that. They can help you come with a better plan, better access. It can try so many different things, right? So that is what we see. Yeah. From an AI perspective, but AI is not something for you to be able to use AI, an underlying understanding of the applications is very much important. What environment you're working on for you to guide the AI in a better way, it's important, right? So that's it for today. Any questions? Any questions, guys?
Yes, sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Sir, you previously checked that the WF00F command to check the URL. Sir, what is for penetration testing or vulnerability test?
That is for, see, that is a reconnaissance phase tool, right? So every application nowadays, it is recommended to have a particular tool called Web Application Firewall. So WAF is a tool that will check whether that web application is behind a web application firewall or it is having no protection at all, right? Because if there's a web application firewall, our attack approach is going to be difficult, right? Because a lot of our malicious code, what we test, will be removed by that. So that is why it is used. It is basically a reconnaissance phase, but it will help you out with that. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
So it is part of, see, pen testing means not only hacking, there's a lot of information collection and things and all. A lot of people will think a pen testing, if there is, let's say, if you're working about 8-10 hours in a pen test for hacking a thing, 7 to 8 hours will go in identifying, doing the information collection, reconnaissance, scanning, and anything. It is probably, sometimes you can tell it takes about a couple of minutes for us to hack application, right? But collecting information, understanding, that takes in a lot of time. Yeah. Yes. Any more questions?
Um, Yeah, I have a question as well.
Yes.
So you mentioned about exploiting. So I wanted to ask currently, which is not to say the best, but a starting exploiting system software to recommend
Mm,
to, yeah.
no, it depends. It depends on which application you're working on. Uh, so what is the, are you working on SSH you want to compromise, or a web application and things like that, right? There is no specific tools for that. That is why when you open Kali Linux, there are 700 plus tools out there. For different phases, there are different tools that can be used, right? For let's say for doing something like session management in a web application, a cookie editor add-on in a browser with along with your browser is a very excellent tool out there, right? For checking out XSS attacks and all, your browser is more than sufficient. Uh, Again, if you're doing certain, depending on the burp is very good tool. So if you go with focus on web application, which is about 90% of the attacks or the work in real time, it's going to be there, right? Whenever you're looking at pen testing job, 90% of the time it is going to be web application security. In those situations, the tools which is very much important are going to be your browser. There is a proxy tool called Burp or Zap that's going to be there. And there are add-ons like, Vaplizer, Foxy Proxy, and there's also Oways and Retire.js and things like that. These are the one of the things that you can focus more on, right? So I would suggest going much more practical hands-on. That's going to be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh, thank you. Is it a good practice to, let's say that you copy a a senior's code and you make it your own? Is it a good practice?
From a developer perspective or looking from a pen tester's perspective?
From a pen test or just, like a
Let's say,
script?
yeah. So it is totally fine to use your senior's script, okay? But I would suggest try to understand what's happening in the script and go through the script. What are the steps that is being done by it? You can do, and probably you will always see once you understand how it's working. Everyone's style of working is different. So probably you'll take that tool, rewrite that code into a different approach. All right. So I've done it. See what happens is that we usually will start off as a script kiddie, meaning using someone else's tool to do our work. And once we gain more understanding, then we'll go into much more modifying that tool or writing our own tool. Right? There's no harm in using someone else's tool, but you should know what is happening out there, what exactly
Yes.
it is doing.
Thank you. Thank you very
Welcome.
much.
Okay, I think we are at the very end of our today's cybersecurity session. We do have another 2 hours. Next 2 hours, we are going to moving forward with our first DevOps session, and it will continue for next 8 weekends. So, and hopefully we can give a proper guidance and a roadmap for those who are right now looking for job or trying to switch their career, or any tech enthusiasts those are having a knack or interest on exploring in various different aspects and modules of today's IT industry. I think this is the best platform what we can offer. uh, so guys, if you have any questions about your job hunting, because we are or your career planning, or if you are facing any issues or trouble about, definitely we can guide. And now please remember, our consulting firm is based out of US, and we have so far placed very huge number of for students and other consultant to US job market. But unfortunately we do have a very limited visibility and access like Indian job market or any other job market. So if you are in the US job market and trying to switch your career, if you are not at all IT guy, but you want to have a dream to move forward in the IT, feel free to ask your question, because I think we are pro, and we had a very wide success story which we can showcase.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am joining late today because I forgot
I
there is
cannot understand your voice. Like, I am sorry,
uh,
because your voice is breaking.
hello.
Yes. Who is the may I
Uh,
know? Bhushan, right?
Bhushan, yes.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I joined late because I forgot it today. So can
Okay.
you say tell me what the means so we can
Bhushan, first of all,
once.
your network is very, very slow or has having some issues.
Okay,
Uh,
wait,
if you
Bhushan,
have any,
wait.
I think he's asking whether can we is joining late, he missed the class. You will be getting the YouTube link after a couple of days. You can go through it, Bhushan. I think so. Don't have to worry
yeah.
about that.
Sorry, this is becoming hard for me to understand. But yes, as Mr. Karthik mentioned, we are going to, if you are in in our WhatsApp group, uh, uh, if you are in our WhatsApp group, we are going to post the today's cybersecurity video link, and you can get the access of that. Now, one notice, I think next Friday, hopefully, we are going to start our devs cybersecurity and DevSecOps morning batch. I'm talking about our job ready paid training, and it will it will continue for next 6 weeks, Monday to Friday, 2 hours daily at 9 a.m. Say 9:30 a.m. Central Time. So those are, because this is the only class where students from European Union and African continent, they can join, because US evening batch is not going to align with your time. Though there are certain students who still join in our US evening batch, because that is 7th p.m. Central Time, so somewhere around morning 1 o'clock. But we have an history that students still they have joined because they they want to land the job as soon as they can, so they have that kind of faith, so somehow they manage. But the morning session of US morning session is the best time where it actually it collide and align with uh, European and African students time zone as well. So if you have any question queries about our job ready training, feel free to ask in our group, or you can ping Mr. Debashish, ping me for any other question. One more thing, it is a first come first serve thing, because last batch that thing happened. We have certain number of capacity, a threshold limit, because as it is a hands-on training, we cannot take more than a certain number of students in one batch to make sure that we are delivering what we have planned. It's not about the number, it is about quality for us. And the meeting link is not live yet. Once the meeting is live, because we need to finalize that when the the ongoing batch is going to end, then only we will make that link live. But once the link is live, please try to register as soon as you can, or at least if you have a plan, communicate with any of our trainer or coordinators or me to at least book your slot. Any question so far now?
Yes, how do we know that we are registered? Because it's quite confusing.
I know. Who may I know your name?
It's Voldy Bo Paulo.
Okay, Valdi. So I know we do have a little bit, complicated website, and we are very aware of that. And hopefully, our new website is already developed. We are going to launch it in our website, I think by Monday, hopefully, if everything's done, because we also need to migrate lots of students, like more than 100,000 students my database to migrate. But if you want to, have any issues, you can. That's the reason we always try to actively participate in our WhatsApp group. If you have any question, you can, ping any of one of our admin that, hey, this is the thing, and please also understand that this is like our free training. We have a certain people we can assign, right? But for the paid training, that is a different ball game. They have a separate coordinator, and I am also there. So if you have any issues, if you are in the group, just try to find any admin. You can complete the registration offline as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no issue. And
It
sorry
just
for this website miss. We are aware of that, but it takes little time. It took little time for to fully develop a newer website and try to migrate the whole. I think 120,000 students. Like but our DevOps batch, we are going to start our 43 number batches. Okay,
Wow.
so there are a huge number of students who have done our free training, paid training, and they have a
So I don't think I have more hands-on practical. All we do is just learning and just use with Linux as a Kali, adding it, putting it on our VM and some little things. Just, but I feel that is not enough for someone like me that is aspiring to be a good security analyst to work with. So I really thank the organization for this opportunity. I'm from Nigeria anyway. I really thank the organization for this great opportunity for me to explore and to meet with professionals, internationals that are into the work. But my question is like this: How 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 can you how can you guide people like me, because I've been doing, I just navigate into cybersecurity. There's another job that I was doing for so long, so I want to quit the job so to put cybersecurity. So how can you help people like me grow? Because some words I'm not too familiar with it. Uh, some I'm not too familiar with some terms that have been used the in the uh, in the teaching, in the lecture. So I just feel I'm lost somehow. But I really want to I really want to know how the instructor can help us break down some words to for people like me to understand. And I know that some people like me too are there in the group that are not talking. But I know that uh, if they can help us break down those words at least to some point, we can catch up from there. And
okay. I got your question. I'm trying to answer this thing in shorter, as it takes little time for me, and I don't want to ruin Mr. Devash's time. So now your question is very valid. Now let me tell you about our job ready training. So for that we do have two programs. One is our job ready training, where students, they are not at all from IT background. They don't have any prior experience. Forget about their bachelor or masters. They don't have any IT knowledge. They used to work in groceries, healthcare system, hospitality industry, educational industry, but not at all from IT. Linux and everything for a like a new domain for them. Now all of them or most of them, they enroll for our two programs. One is called job ready training. One is like a secure jobs. A secure job is little bit different story. It is a it is different ball game. Okay, So you don't need to do anything. We are going to like spoon feed everything to you. But for the job ready training, what we know that our students, they are not at all from IT background, and that's the reason we start from the Linux as a fundamental to create their base. And every day it is 2 hours and 2.5 hours. We try to make that thing hands on. Sometime we are, and followed by coursework, project work, capstone project. So every day I'm giving in like an example. Every day in live session, our trainer will teach you how to write A, B, C, D, and in your task or work, like homework kind of stuff, they are going to give you to write some words. Definitely they did not teach you, and you'll stuck somewhere around 80 to 90%, and you will trigger your imaginations or creative minds, and you'll pop up some creative question. The next day our trainer will first resolve those questions. Once he resolve it, the holistic picture will be much more clearer to our student. So now next 6 to 7 weeks we complete this kind of session, and the end of the session, most of our students, they'll have a like a 1.5 to 2 years hands-on experience equivalent of a DevOps engineer or cybersecurity expert. Now once they've done that thing, most of the student, like 50 to 40% student, they just go for the and applying for their DevOps role. Few of them, those are have a little time and they have a patience, they go for the cybersecurity training, and then they move forward to a cybersecurity job role. Now we have a huge success rate. Now only thing we are looking for our students, like full commitment. You have to think that, okay, this is my only chance to get and migrate to IT industry. If you have that kind of driven energy, I can give you the return that regardless of your background or anything else, you will land on a job, or you will get your success where you want yourself after maybe 6 months later. I think this is the only one training is available in the internet where we start from scratch and we move to make our student expert level within 6 or 7 weeks throughout three major key thing: training, project work, and capstone project. Now in our DevOps training, we first start with Linux, then AWS, then move forward with 6 DevOps tools like Git, GitLab, Docker, Kubernetes, Ansible, Terraform. Now everything you can think as like a puzzle block. At the end of the session, you need to work on a capstone project. That is like a after completions of your 6 week. Now in this capstone project, you need to create the whole picture using all of your puzzle block, and then you can understand that how this whole CI/CD pipeline will work. And that was actual a live project. One S&P 500 company they used to had. Now we have a chance to work with them, and after they migrate from another pipeline, we are using for our student as a test bed. So throughout the I am giving an example of our student success story. Two students, husband and wife, they have joined in a month of Jan. They completed their DevOps training. They completed their cybersecurity training. Both of them, they got the job in US job market in around 150K per annum salary. Full time, one they got full time position. Another the lady, she got our consulting firm and joined as a contractual position. As the contractual position salary is a little bit higher than full time. So now you can understand how we navigate and how we prepare our students for the job market, right? Now keep it in mind, job market is not a easy area where you have to compete with people who have experience with like 8-9 years of experience. But how we compete, because you have the hands-on experience with all of the tools which is have to have in your DevOps resume. Now, while you are going to join as a DevOps engineer or cybersecurity expert on any project or any company, maybe you are going to work only one or two tools, not all of them, right? And congratulations, Ernest. Are you there?
Sorry, sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah, let.
One more question, sir.
Yeah.
I actually came across a video on YouTube some weeks back that said that you cannot be a good cybersecurity without learning some programming language, some scripting, and all that. So my mind was, I felt so bad. That, how am I going to start learning all this? Is it really important, or how can that help me to?
Now, there are certain training we provide, like a data science, a data engineering, where the coding you have to learn. Like in our fundamental of our data science and AI, you have to learn Python. For data analytics, you have to know the SQL. For DevOps and cybersecurity, you have to know the Linux and Linux command. Now, learning a coding language is a good to have, but not mandatory.
From a pen testing perspective, web application security, if you want to be hyper good pen tester, then having a knowledge of programming, how to write a code is going to help you out with that. But without having a scripting knowledge or programming knowledge, you still can be an excellent pen tester, right? I have a lot of people who I've worked with, don't have any kind of a programming knowledge experience. The only reason why we need a programming is not that you're going to write any program out there. You're going to understand how an application is written, because as I told, black box, you don't have access to the code. You don't know how the code is there. You have to visualize that. So having a coding experience, that is going to be there, right? In a bug bounty program, if you take top 20 bug bounty reward guys in the world will come from a programming perspective, but still 95% people who get bug bounty program get reward money will not have any programming or scripting knowledge out there. As you grow further, you will be able to do that. But what is that is required to do the activities? Sorry, you should be able to
Sorry,
do
sir.
it.
Now, one thing I like to tell, first of all, congrats, Ernest, for your hard work and for your new job.
Thank you, sir.
You really deserve, and thank you for your patience, and really you have done a great work. Thank you, Mr. Debashish, also. So, Mr. Debashish, Ernest just informed that he got official letter as an offer letter. So,
Oh, that is great. Congratulations, Ernest. You are really someone whom we have found that you are always keen to know new technology, and you were always sticking into it. So that was quite marvelous. You
Thank
had a
you,
lot of hard work and you kept on with the various batches. You had joined with the various batches, and that was really
and
appreciated.
one more thing, I think he joined our evening DevOps job ready training, and evening batch is like a midnight for his time zone, right?
Yes, yes, that's true. He's from
sir.
South Africa.
Wow,
Yeah, yeah.
congratulations.
I'm actually sent in Johannesburg as I speak, because I have to move here because the company is, yeah, and it's actually right next to my brother. Uh, so like, well, when he goes to work, I go with him there. So it was such a beautiful thing to see.
Yes, yes.
Okay, we are moving to our DevOps session. Then afterwards, if you have any question or anything about our free session, our paid job ready training, or our uh, um, uh, job placement program, feel free to ping us. We'll definitely guide you. For now, I'm not going to take more time. Already I have taken quite long time for Mr. Debashish. So and it is become very late for Indian time. Sorry, Mr. Debashish. Please continue. I'm extremely sorry.
There is some question from Mr. Okoe.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, I'm having some issue with my installing my Kali on my virtual machine. And I had the network I had the network issue that I had to drop off from the call. So I just wanted to know if we have gotten to this section of installing Kali and getting to know how to use mmap or the scanning of open ports.
For installing your Kali Linux, if you can post it in the WhatsApp group, it will be ideal. I think it's late now.
Okay.
So I'll be able to help you out with that part. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Kartik.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, Mr. Debashish, sorry for the late. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I started the recording. Okay. And whoever is interested with the DevOps session can continue. Let me share the screen. Let me know if you are able to see the screen.
Yes, we can see your screen, but not the camera.
Okay. Is that fine? Are you? Am I visible?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So thank you for all of you who have joined on a Saturday evening or a afternoon or a morning. Here we are discussing DevOps. Okay, so it is the first class of a 8-week cycle. We are now going to do it. I mean, start from the very beginning. Let us introduce ourselves to DevOps. Why we are here, why we have gathered here, what is the purpose, and how do we go about it? Okay. In this, the basic purpose of this is we have a full-fledged program, that is a job-ready program that we have. Okay, that is for 7 to 8 weeks of 2.5 hours every day from Monday to Friday, both evening or morning batch. So I mean, from a US point of view, morning and morning US and evening US. So there we have several tools we will learn apart from the cloud, which is AWS, and we have the Linux. I was hearing about Linux, and many students felt that Linux is a compulsory, it's a mandatory for us, everyone to learn. Because without Linux, it is not even a single step that you can take in this world of DevOps and DevSecOps or cybersecurity. Okay, so let me introduce you to a fantastic world of DevOps. And somebody was asking me about asking us whether we should be aware of any programming language. Okay, that is a very common question. Now, to answer that, it is yes and no. Yes is always a good answer, but it is difficult to attain a yes because who are entry level into this domain, because it is very difficult for a developer. Now you are passing out from your university or from your college, and directly you will it will be difficult to get a developer's job because that market is already saturated. If you, yeah, I am not saying it is not possible. It is possible if you are exceptionally good. That exceptionally good is something really exceptionally good. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for you to get a job. But the beauty of DevOps is an entry point where you do not need to know much of a programming language. If you have an analytical mindset, if you can think logically, if your logical background is too good, new things are not at all, because we are handling many students coming from different backgrounds, not IT in particular. Okay. So in that case, what we do is we have been a lot of success story where we have converted the person who is a non-IT guy from non-IT to an IT specialist, and they are doing a very fantastic jobs in US market. You can take it from us. Okay, let me start without much further ado. We will start our session. Just let me know if my voice is clear and if you can see the screen. If both are okay, then we can proceed. So first of all,
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes.
Great. So you can see a very well twined some system that they are operating in a very well, it's sort of a well-oiled machine. Okay, these are the various phases of software development and deployment and delivery. Okay, so on the left hand side, you will see the development part on the left hand side, and this is the operations part. And you are the entire figure. That means you are going to help the development team and the operations team as a DevOps. So development plus operations is DevOps. Why DevOps, and why we need a DevOps guy? Why the company is looking for a knowledgeable guy on DevOps is because now most of the companies, almost between 75 to 80% of the companies have matured in implementing DevOps in their life cycle, in their software development life cycle, without which they are not being able to do the automation. So to do an automation, which is the prime requirement of nowadays, you have to deliver your product very fast, and everything will be tested, built properly, code verified, validated, the code quality checked, all in a pipeline, automated pipeline, because you need to deliver it in a very short cycle that is called sprint. And therefore, with the concept of agile coming into the market, that is the agile methodology. Okay, it has revolutionized the way you deliver and deploy the product. So we will now just discuss few of the things, not in details, great details, because that will be not necessary. We will start with the planning. So in DevOps, what we say, it is like, let me write it. So if this is, sorry, this is development. This is operations. And you are a sort of a Venn diagram, this and this. So development and operations, and you are DevOps. So you are coming with a plethora or a suite of tools that will make the life of both the developers and the operations guy, along with the testing. So this is testers as well, and the quality guys, all lies in the right quadrant. So quality, operations, testing. Here it is development and your designers, developers, designers, solution architects. Solution architects. And you are a common factor with all of these guys. They will depend on you. because you are the master of all these tools that they will be using, or you will be using, or the company is going to use in various phases of this particular life cycle. Okay, so what we say DevOps is from ideation to production. So what is that? Ideation means you can say it's the project initiation. Initiation. And this is when you deliver it to production. That is the end point. And it is not only that, even after the delivery, when the operations becomes the owner of the system, because operations are the backbone of any company. Okay, operations will start, the product has been delivered to the production. The product that was designed for this project was delivered to the production, but the work does not end there. The project ends because the project will start from here, project will end over here. So this is the tenure of the project. Okay, it is finite. It is not infinite. So project will have a starting date, project will have an ending date, but operations do not have it. Operations can start from a starting point, but there is no end point, or there is no end time. So operations will go on and on and on and on and on, never ending, because they are going to man or operate on the production systems. They are the owners. You have to be very clear about ownership. They are the owners of the entire infrastructure. Entire infrastructure. And what do you mean by infrastructure? It is not only the servers. Servers are of course there. Servers. What else? Storage. What else? Network. Middleware. Admin. Let's say Linux, or operating system admins. So they all fall under the jurisdiction of operations. They are the backbone of the company. So whenever a product has gone into this, the project might end, but the project continues with the operations. They will keep on monitoring on the health and everything. And if there is any defect or any issues raised by the service team, the service managers, the issues, it should not, one more thing, the client should not come back to you. You are a vendor. I mean, you are working for a vendor company like IBM, like Accenture, like so many other vendors. The client is, let's say, AT&T. Client should not come to the vendor, that means to IBM or Accenture or to Cognizant. Whatever it is, client should not come back to the vendor with an issue. You must go back to the client, or you must actually get hold of the issue, resolve the issue before it comes back to the client, comes from the client. Always that is so client first. Okay. If that is the philosophy, then you cannot allow a client coming you and complaining about the product. It should not happen like that. So a monitoring health check is the most important part after it has been delivered. What will the operations do? They will check. And if there are so many tools, there are many tools, I will discuss about that. So those tools will deliver a feasibility or a visibility to the operations guy about how the system is performing. If that is performing well, there is no issues. If not, it will go back to this cycle. So can you see it is coming back, going here, and again the delivery will happen, deployment will happen, it will again be deployed and delivered to the production, again it will. So this is an inverted or a horizontal 8. Any question? It should not be, because it's just the beginning. So what we do, we move ahead. Software development is a very common term. You do not need to worry that much. You can skip this. Just see that it is called SDLC, Software Development Lifecycle. Okay, for any software development company. It is comprising of planning, defining, designing, building, testing, deployment. So planning, in this planning phase, you have the project managers, the business analysts, the business owner, mutually discussing, the solution architect, everyone discussing about the requirements. Okay, so the requirements, the business pain points. So why should they hire you? Why should they hire you? Because here they will discuss the business requirements. And the business requirements, because there are pain points, customer pain points. The customer is feeling some issues for the business. Business is having some, they need some IT solution, some digital solution. So that business, it will be discussed among the project managers from both the sides, from the client and the vendor. Then there will be the solution architect. There will be some business analysts. They will freeze upon the business requirement. But the business requirement has to be now converted into a technical requirement. Because you have to convert in the same language that business requires. Because business will give you in a very non-technical format, template, the requirements. That has to be converted through the business analysts. Business analysts are very important at this stage, along with the designers or the solution architect. Okay, so business analysts, because they know the business of the client, as well as they are a system analyst, so they can help the solution architect convert the business requirement into a technical requirement. After the technical requirement has been done, it will come to the designers. They will produce a blueprint or an artifact, which is an UML diagrams, unified modeling language diagrams. Those diagrams are actually giving all the functional viewpoint for whom? Can anybody tell me for whom? See, this technical requirement now, that is still a very much business analyst point of view. That is fully not technical. They have to be converted into some design document, which is mostly UML diagrams. So every functions that is required for delivering the business requirement will be detailed over here in some diagrams. These diagrams will come down to the home. This is the implementation phase. Implementation phase. Okay. So there are the developers. The developers will work on the UML. They know how to convert that UML into some programming, some code, programming code, or with some languages. It can be Java, it can be PHP, it can be .NET, it can be C#, whatever you can say, and it can be also Python. whatever. So that will be that. See, finally, the business requirement will be converted into a programming code. Then it will be build. Build will have the building and the development and the building of that of the application will be happening over here, and then it will be delivered to the testing team. The testing team will test with some automation tools that they have, and it will be either coming back to the developers because there could be bugs, some defects, or it can go for the deployment in the pre-production. So this testing is called the system integration testing. Here it is on the pre-production, which is a simulation of a production environment. And here will happen the UAT. User, who is the user? Your user is the client. The client will now sit on this particular pre-production server, and whatever that it has been deployed, that product has been deployed over here, they will test on it. This test and this test is totally different. This is a system integration testing done by the testing team, whereas this is the user acceptance testing. They will test it from a user point of view. It will be totally different. So can anybody tell me what are the various sort of testing in a system integration testing? Just 1, 2, 3, 4.
Unit testing.
Unit testing, I will say that should be on the developers. Unit testing, UT, should be conducted at the developers end. Before you do the unit testing, you should not give it to the testing team. So unit testing, or we can say peer-to-peer reviews, will happen at this implementation stage. So that unit testing is already done. It can be done with an X unit. X unit is for your .NET, Microsoft .NET, or J unit for Java. These are automation tools. Okay, they will do generally with X unit or a J unit, or there are so many other tools depending on the application that you have been developed. Here, one of them will be your functional testing, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Functional testing, because the functions that you have developed to cater to this business requirement should be aligned. Okay, then there will be what is that?
And the performance testing.
Performance testing, or in the performance testing, you can categorize in several ways. Like there can be a stress testing, stress or load testing. Okay. There are so many other types of performance testing. It depends on the company's policy of what should be the level of testing regarding performance. What is this? The third point, a very important testing that should happen. It is sort of
security testing.
Very good. One of the most important non-functional testing will be your security testing. There are many, but one of them is your security testing. Very good. So there will be code smells. So I can say this also, I will take it as 4, quality code checking as well. That can be also done. Quality code checking with the help of SonarQube. Okay, so there can be code smells, code vulnerabilities, or so many things can be tested. Okay, for Java, there are around 756 rules that has to be passed. Yeah, there will be an acceptance levels, like it can be up to 85% of the threshold. So you can have 15% of failures. But if your failures is 20%, then it is a failure. If you have passed only 80%, but your failure is 20%, then it is called a failure. So there is a various ways to test these metrics. These parameters will be set by a company, how strict they are. Some company go to 90% versus 10%. So the only allowable failure range is 10%.
I don't know, man. What kind of a graphics person is?
What kind of? Hello?
Oh, oh, sorry.
So any question? You can ask any question. So if not, then
no.
Okay. So we will have the UAT. If this passed, this is the most stringent test. Functional testing has to be 100%. You cannot say, okay, 90% has passed and 10% failed. No, because then you are not catering to the business. This has to be very, very strict. If there are 50 functions or 50 features, all 50 features have to pass. You cannot say, I have 45 passed and 5 failed. It will be considered as failed. It should go back to the building team or the developers. So anyway, it has exit gate from this testing. It has gone to the deployment. There was a UAT. The UAT approval has taken place, and then it will go to production. And then after it goes to production, what happens? It goes to the operations team. It goes to the operations team, and operations team will then start monitoring, and then it can again come back to the planning, and this cycle will continue. This cycle continues. Okay, iterative. So I will remove this and continue with my sorry. So in SDLC, we have two models, the waterfall model and the agile model. I will not go into details of this because that is not very important. If I'm coming from a project management background, I will know a lot of things regarding that. Okay, but one thing I will tell you, this waterfall model, it was one of the popular models, is also a popular model still now. Sorry. So, but it is all the projects failing, almost 70% of the projects which are failing all over the world, which are following the waterfall model, is because of waterfall model. 70% failure. It's a high rate of failure. It is a statistics given by IBM. And as an I used to work in IBM as a project manager, so we were always having this magical figure, or this figure. Sort of, we used to have jokes around us that, okay, are you going to hit that 70% bracket? I mean, for my project, for the project. So basically, most of the projects under the waterfall model will either, because there will be, this triangle. This is called the golden triangle of project management. You have the cost or the budget. You have the schedule or the timelines, and you have the quality. So you have to deliver your project within the cost or the budget. You have to deliver your project within the time, and you have to deliver the product with a certain quality expectation that has been set with the customer. Okay. So if any one of them in this triangle is not delivered, or it is over budget, or it is over the time, that means it is more than the time scheduled or estimated, and if it is the quality is less than the expectation, then it is considered a failure. So most of the 70% because of waterfall model will fail. Agile model is lot of success. Almost 70% is a success. The cart has reversed. And with Agile came DevOps. Or do I say with DevOps came Agile? I am not sure. So which one is earlier, egg or the hen, is a question. So let us not ponder on which came, but they are like hand in glove to each other. Okay, without Agile, you cannot implement DevOps, and without DevOps, you cannot implement an Agile model, or you cannot have a project management model called Agile.
So both are methodologies, right?
Yes, both are methodologies. You are correct. So that SDLC, both are following the SDLC, that software development lifecycle. But how? What is the principle? So that is what we are going to see just in the next slide. That in the waterfall model, I will not go into details, but because the waterfall model has something which is very much there, it is frozen. So the requirements are frozen there. You see, it is causing some problem. So a requirement will be frozen at the very beginning. So if it is a 1 year project, it's a, see, waterfall model projects are a bit complex. Lots of features, it will be delivered, has to be delivered in one go. Complex, big, and it will involve so many domains. That's why it will be a bit complex. So it has to be planned. A project manager is the main person in delivering a project. Okay, when it is a project manager has certain planning. So it is said that out of 100% of a project, planning goes almost 70% of it. So a project manager is involved in every phase of the project. And also at the same time, I can say it is because of the project managers that most of the 70% of the projects in waterfall model fail. The one reason is the project managers. Because of the extreme power they exercise over and they have been conferred with so much of a power by the business, and that by the model itself, because the model has to depend on the project manager, that they at one point of time become a sort of a dictator who believe that the project cannot move one step without the help of PM. So they start micromanaging, and the philosophy of micromanaging is that you do not rely on your team. That's why you do management. You do not have trust on your team. Why? Because you think that without you, the team cannot work, cannot take even a simple. So the question of ownership is entirely lacking in this model. Every ownership will be lying with the PM. That is not good. Our team has to take the ownership. And when the team knows that I'm not responsible for anything, I'm not accountable for anything, what they will do? They will only design, they will only develop. They are not concerned whether testing team is failure or having some problem in testing their code or not. So everyone becomes working in silos. Everyone starts working in silos, which is just against a team philosophy. You should be working as a team, not in a discrete silo mode. You cannot be a lone fox working in a corner of your office building. You cannot be. And then if you are a lone fox, then you are a not team player. So that team is lacking over here. Even if there is a team, but that team is divided into phases. So a design team will not take care anything after the phase has come out of that. There is an exit gate. Exit gate at each phase. There will be a lots of approval process, lots of documentation, lots of artifacts coming out from the design. So the customers will approve them. And in doing so, and there is a lot of bureaucracy. It will go through a lot of process overhead. And once it comes out of the design guys they will heave a sigh of relief that, okay, my work is done. I'm done with the project. I have nothing to do any further. That is not a teamwork. The teamwork is lagging totally. First of all, this is frozen. The requirement is frozen for 1 year. And can you believe that today's customers are very, very dynamic? What is their liking today can be a disliking tomorrow. They like this product today, but tomorrow they are looking for something else. So to have a frozen requirement for 1 year is not good. But that is what the design is, what the framework is. Okay. Another thing. So that is it is complex, it is big. They are working in silos. It is not a team function. This is frozen, and there will be no ownership other than the user. I mean, other than the project manager. And project manager becomes a sort of high-handed guy. Okay. And there's one more big drawback: the assumption. It is falling under a category of happy planning. Happy planning, happy plan management. That is, you assume, the assumption is that your project will not have any defects, or rather there will not be any bottleneck. There will be no road blocker. Everything will move smooth and fine according to the project management plan. But in reality, it does not happen like that. Am I visible? Can you tell me?
Yes, you are, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So thank you. So my system has gone a bit of this video. It takes a bit of network, Anyway. So in that case, the assumption saying that everything will go smooth is the most bigger culprit. Okay, assumption should be that it can go wrong. So you do have to have a plan A, plan B, plan C. But most of the cases, people will fall back on plan A, the project management. And one more difficulty is that, can you tell me what is one more difficulty? You can see there is always a forward movement, with the assumption that every forward movement, every exit gate will pass. And is there any backward movement?
No, sir.
No. Of course, you will not go back to the requirement, because if you are going back to the requirement, you are going back to the client can just penalize you. Why you are challenging the requirements? I cannot change the requirement anything right now. Okay, so you can go up to the design. So the design can be wrong. Based on the design wrong, the development can go wrong. Based on the development, the testing will not allow, because testing has the metrics of all the test cases based on the requirements. So they will not allow the development to proceed to deployment. So the bottleneck happens here. The major hurdle, the roadblock happens here, and it goes on and on and on. So in this 1-year project, when you come to this deployment, when there is a UAT, user acceptance testing, it is almost 11 months gone. And now suddenly the user says, no, I'm not happy with what you have delivered. Functionally, it is okay, but I'm not worried about the function. But the essence of the product is not coming out. I wanted this, and you have given me. So I wanted apple, and you have successfully given me an orange. Though the orange is quite good and sweet, seedless apple orange. That's okay. The product is very good, but that is still an orange. I did not want an orange. I wanted an apple. So on the 11th month, the customer is saying that you have delivered an orange. So what you have to do? Within 1 month, you have to make this an apple. Is it possible? You have taken 11 months to come to this gate. It is not possible. It is almost like the thing it is going to, even if it is within the cost, the time, it is going to be exceeded. And the customer will not provide you even a single day more than the schedule. If they provide, they will penalize you highly, because it will be in the agreement. So there is a lot of difficulty. It is very difficult to handle a project with a waterfall model. That is my essence. Do you have any question?
No,
The
sir.
one biggest, yes, the one biggest thing, what is the drawback? The biggest drawback is
From this, I think it means that like you can't apply this to it depends on the kind of a team. So if you're going to have a large team, it's going to cause a lot of problems.
okay. Yes.
Yeah, because the communication span, as you pointed out, and then number two, a company wouldn't want to really invest in a product that would take this much, and then because it would be costly for them to make those changes with immediate effect.
Correct. And one point missed is that I will remove this. One point missed is,
are you
that
referring to the time span, to when the product is actually needed?
Yeah, that is the time. Time is a constraint. Yes, definitely. But the most important part for the assumption is that, because you are always forward moving, you are assuming that there is no rollback. The rollback or getting back is quite difficult. Okay, getting back from one stage to the other stage. And the most important is you have not encouraged early failure. You have to fail. So you are in standard 1, and here is standard 10. You are in class 1 in your school. You were doing excellent. You are getting 100%. First standard, second standard, third standard. And when you came to the 9th standard, when in the 9th standard, you got 35%. Which one is good? It should have been 35% over here. You got a long time to prepare yourself for the best results during the later stage when it matters. This phase matters when you want to deliver. But there you got 35%. whereas you should have got at least 90%. So the early failure, because you were very confident that I am successful so much in the very beginning, so you never thought that you can fail. Failure is a hard reality. You will fail. You take it from me. However confident person you are, you have to fail in some point of time. And that failure, if it happens on the latter stage, at this stage, if the failure happens, then what happens? It is not acceptable. So you should have failed over here. So your design should have failed over here. Somebody could have reviewed that. No, the design is not going to cater to the requirements. Then you will have rectified that at this stage. So the development will be correct. So the testing will find lesser bugs and the deployment UAT will pass. Is it thing? Because you are here, you are failing late. That is the biggest drawback. I will move ahead. So in the agile model, we do a short sprint. We do a short sprint. You know, do you run? Sorry. Do you run 100 meters? When you run 100 meters, what do you say? It is a sprint. Sprint. When you run marathon, what do you say? Do you say it's a sprint? Marathon is a run. Run. But 100 meter, 200 meters are sprints. You will say Carl Lewis is in a sprint of 100 meters, competing in a sprint of 100 meters. Okay. So marathon is a run. 1,000 meter, 10,000 meters run is a run. So our waterfall model was a run. And agile is a sprint. And that's why you say you give your product the most business value. So out of 50 features that you are supposed to deliver, out of 50 features of the product, you will be customizing or picking up the first 5 most valuable business, which can deliver the most valuable business value, which is imminent, just in time to the market. Just in time to the market, because it is when the customer needs, you must come up with the product. It is not that the customer needed some product now and you have given after say 1 month. So in the 1 month period, what happens is there are many competitors who has already given that requirement. So you have to be just in time in the market. Just 1 minute. Just give me I will stop my camera because just yeah, I have done that. I have now. Can you see? Yeah, I can see myself. So good. What I do, I will go back. So the most a product having a feature having the most business value will have to be delivered. Okay, so I will pick up only the first. So it is called the first 5, the 5 priority feature. And what is that process called? You are creating a product backlog. A bucket will be created. By whom? The business owner. So you see your client is working with you. So you become one team. Business owner is working with you. Every day there will be a stand-up call for 15 minutes. with the business owner. So business owner is entirely involved. Whereas in the other diagram that we have seen, the business owner was only involved in the very early stage when it was you are freezing the requirement. But here the business owner is involved every day for entire all the phases, and they will prepare a bucket that is called a priority bucket or a backlog bucket. Backlog. So in this backlog, you will pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those 5 features, the most priority features, which is having the business value, the most business value, will be picked up, and that is called a sprint cycle. Sprint cycle. So the release will be of 2 weeks. Short sprints. That's why it is called short sprints. It is not a 1-year run. 2 weeks or 4 weeks. Within 2 weeks, I will deliver all the 5 thing. This thing. So why? Because you have prioritized your requests or requirements. You will design accordingly. And during the design, so you have given that UML or diagram to the coding team, and they will start working on the first feature. So when, say, after 2 or 3 days, when the first feature has been delivered, immediately it will be given to the testing team to test. So it is almost that the entire team starts working from day 1. It is not that design will complete its design, then it will come to the coding. Coding will complete all the 5 features or all the 50 features, and then it will give it to the testing. Not that. Otherwise, you are wasting time. When you have done a small part of thing, you must give it to the testing team, because you are trying to do what? Why is that needed? You are trying to fail early. That is the essence of agile. You need to fail early. Failure will happen. You cannot avoid failures. But if it happens early, it is good for the thing. So see, you can refine, and iterate. Keep on iterating till you get the best product, the quality product, which is without any failure. The failure will not happen any further because you have rigorously tested and failed earlier. You have refined yourself. If there is a failure, you give it back to the coding. Immediately they will start. So whatever the rectification needs to be done, because they are time boxed. These are all, I'm giving short terms such that I'm not explaining all the agile features, but time box means you are within the time limit. So your requests, you have not frozen your requirements. Why? Because your backlog can keep on changing. The bucket, that is the design, that is the beauty of, you do not need, your requirements will be dynamic. It is according to the market requirement. It is not that you have thought that this would be the market requirement and I will be working on it for 1 year. No, that is called a static. That is a happy planning. That should not happen. Your backlog bucket should be very, very dynamic. What you thought was the feature number 10. Maybe tomorrow you can replace the 5 with the feature number 10. It can happen. It can happen. So you thought 1, 2, 3, 4, and 10. The feature number 10 will have to be promoted to feature number 5. That can happen. So it becomes very dynamic in nature, and it is quite adapted to the current requirement of the age. It is quite up to the age. Any question?
No, sir. Clear.
Very good. So there are lots of advantages, definitely. Customer satisfaction, less planning required. Oh, one thing I forgot to tell you, because I was a project manager, I know the pain. We are not required a project management or project manager is not required in an agile team. In an agile team. An agile team is a short team, and the ideal mix is between 7 to 9 team members. And each of these team members are experts in their own area, but they also have some cross-functional knowledge. So it can work as a very well-oiled machine. And these guys are all of this, whether you are a DevOps guy in this project, or you are a tester, you are a DevOps guy, or you are a developer, you are an operations guy, or you are a designer or a solution architect. Everyone is the owner of the project. The entire team is the owner of the project. So the team will take a decision, not the project manager. Only there is a servant leader. And that servant leader is, and the very name suggests that you are a servant. You will only coordinate between the business owner and the team. You are a coordinator, sort of. You will provide the team with whatever the requirements they need. You will arrange all those resources. You are basically a servant leader, but you will not dictate. You will not have any say on what. You cannot say that, no, the team has to decide on the course of the progress.
Sir, you are unmute. Sir, you are mute. Voice, I cannot hear your voice.
Mute. I don't know why I was in mute. So how long I was in mute? Up to which point?
Just few seconds ago. Till
Oh,
the
okay.
that we don't
Maybe.
dictate, you said, right? That part.
Okay, fine. So what I will say, that a project manager is not there in an agile team. Only a servant leader is there. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes. The servant manager or the service, sorry, again saying manager. It is servant leader will only coordinate between the business owner from the client side and the team, the agile team, to provide the resources that is required by the team. It is like it will work as a servant. And so these guys are called, you know what? It is, if you are following a Scrum project, it is a Scrum Master. Okay. But it is not a project manager. There are very, very less documentation, almost nil. Documentation takes around 70% of the time. Documentation, whatever it is. So no documentation or less documentation. You are meant only to work. You have to, but the whole thing is you have to deliver the product, the features within 2 weeks, the 5 features. So that is called a release, or better to say a sprint release. Okay. So you plan for the sprint release. There will be a burn down chart. So on this, you start, initially your progress will be slow because you are a team, you have to gel with the team and the progress will be slow. So there is a team velocity. There are so many things. Actually, I'm not going to discuss that because my target is to understand why we are learning, why we are here to learn DevOps. There is a team velocity. Initially, the team velocity will be less, but gradually as you experience, gradually the team velocity will, so the time will come down. Time will come down. It is time versus speed. Speed of delivery. Speed increases, time reduces. Anyway, okay, but ultimately you will deliver within 2 weeks or 4 weeks. Generally, say 5 or 6 or 10 products will be delivered, features will be delivered maximum by 4 weeks. If you are planning more than 4 weeks, then it is not good. You have to break down your product features in that case. Maximum 4 weeks, a sprint release. So the requirements can be dynamic and not frozen. Functionality can be created and tested quickly. Yes, of course, because everyone, the testing team is also involved at the very beginning. So what is DevOps? Why is DevOps? We are going to understand. We have already understood why we are required as a DevOps engineer. Okay. Now there are developers, there are operations. They always keep on firefighting because these guys have a lot of ego. These guys have a lot of ego. They think they know a lot. Yes, they know a lot, but that doesn't mean that they can undermine the functionality of an operations guy. Okay, so based on this, there will be a lot of tussle back and forth between the operations and the why operations. Why there is a fight between the operations and the developers? Because developers will put in, always they are innovative. They want to put in something into the system, whereas the operations guy do not want. They want a status quo. Why they want the status quo? Because they want the running system not to be disturbed. If you are putting in new things, it may happen the existing running applications can go wrong. So they will resist. It is like this one is like this, and this one is resisting. So there is a clash point. Operations is resisting, and development is delivering. Okay, putting in something. Now, a developer's job is to develop applications, passes code to the operations team. That's fine, but operations environment will not be suitable for the development teams that code to work. So it can fail. It will fail. The developer used to run the code on a system and forward it to the operating system. So they will tune. They will tune the environment, the dev environment accordingly. They are quite intelligent guys. They know they will tweak and tune their system according their environment according to the application that they have developed. But here there is a fixed sort of environment. Fixed environment. It is because there are lots of other applications that are running. Lots of other applications. It is not that it is only one project which is going to use the test environment or the environment. So it is very difficult to make a common environment for all the applications because it is very, very customized. It will run in that particular development environment. When it comes, the code comes over here, it fails naturally. So there will be anyway. So I will move forward. So this will keep on. It is. They will say it's not my fault, and they will say it's not working. So this led to a lot of back and forth between the developer and the operations team. Hence, it impacted the efficiency of the project. The project is getting a lot of hit because of this unnecessary debates, unnecessary time-consuming activities of no value. So the problem was solved using DevOps. Now, that is the importance of your DevOps tools, that you come with a set of a platoon of tools. So that same developer who was opposing the testing team that no, you are not correct, I am correct. Now the testing team has produced the result out of Selenium. The web application that the developer has developed was tested using an automation tool called Selenium. Now the result coming and Selenium saying that no, there are, say, out of 50 features, there are almost, or 50 test cases, there is almost a failure in 20 cases. 20 cases have failed. So will the developers now challenge this output? Can they? No, they cannot. Immediately the test manager will call the development manager. There will be a meeting and the development manager will now accept, yes, they cannot say wrong. It is a tested and verified tool. It is in the industry accepted tool. So it cannot say something wrong. It cannot be manipulated by the testing team. So whatever it is saying, you must go back. If the SonarQube is giving some result that the Java code that they have written or the Python code they have written is not within the threshold, so it has to be rectified. And they will give a detailed report that these are the problem areas. They will come back and the developers now cannot deny, cannot argue. Can they? No. However big their ego is, doesn't matter. You cannot deny. So here your DevOps came into picture. And not only that, gradually you will become friends. So DevOps guys become a friend with the development team, with the testing team, with the project management team, with the operations team, with the quality team, because everyone will come back to you because everyone wants their particular thing done correctly, especially the operations team. And of course, the development team as well. So if they want their things to be done and you are the experts of all these tools, next I'm going to discuss about the tools. So, Dev and Ops is DevOps. And it is not me, it is Amazon. It is saying something about DevOps. DevOps is a combination of cultural philosophies, practice. So DevOps itself is not a tool. Please remember this. DevOps is a combination of cultural philosophies, practices, and tools that increases an organization's ability to deliver applications and services at high velocity. Okay. And what is Microsoft saying? Microsoft saying that DevOps combines development and operations to unite people. See, it is not saying anything about technology. It is saying that it unites people, process, and technology in application planning, development, delivery, and operations. So are you not important? You are a very, very important guy, because Microsoft and Amazon is saying that DevOps is indispensable. You cannot do, I think, I'm not very sure of the spelling, but anyway. So you cannot do away with you cannot do without DevOps. If you have to be delivering just in time delivery. Understanding the primary phases, yes, that's okay. And it has to be that there are 6 principles based on which DevOps is based on. It has to be customer-centric actions. Any actions that you take, it has to be customer-centric. It should be end-to-end responsibility. You should work as a team with an end-to-end ownership. Continuous improvement. The improvement is continuous. You cannot say, I'm happy. There is no place of complacency. You keep on continuously improving on this. You have to automate everything, but sometimes you must leave something on a manual ground, because everything automated is not accepted. I mean, it is not, uh, it may not do good. So you can automate most of the things, if not everything. And that is the beauty. So that work which used to take 2 hours, now you will deliver it in within 10 minutes. Which one is preferable for the operations, for the process? It will accept which can reduce the time, because time is money. You are dealing with the police, and police wants an information. If you give that information, the expectation is within 10 minutes you have to give that information. But earlier your systems can give that information within a day. It took a full day, but gradually, but actually the SLA was to give it within 10 minutes, because the crime will not stop. The criminal will run away if that information is not available. So if your system will deliver that information within 10 minutes, that is the best possible solution. It used to give it in one day. Now, with the automation of those processes, you have done it, you have given that information within 10 minutes. So that is one thing. Work as one team. This team concept comes along with Agile. If you cannot work as a team, you are not a part of the team at all. Monitor and test everything. Yes, you have to keep on monitoring and testing everything. You cannot leave assuming that, yeah, it will work, because it has come from a developer who is uh, in this industry for 16 years. You cannot leave it onto any assumption. So many other reasons. The why traditional ITs and why DevOps. Which one is better? So there is a comparison. It is less productive, more productive. Skill-centric team is divided into specialized silos. More time invested in planning, because the project manager takes almost 70% of the time in planning. Smaller and frequent releases lead to easy scheduling, time boxing, you can say, and less time in planning. Difficult to achieve target or the goal. Of course it is. Frequent releases with continuous feedback makes achieving targets easy. Now, it is said that if you have to be a champion in DevOps, you have to, let me do it with a different color. So they say, if you have to do it, if you can master 20 plus DevOps tools, you are a champion. But for us, for our market study that we have done, we see that if you know about 7 of the tools, 7 tools will be more than sufficient. And what are the 7 tools? That in our main course, in our job ready training program, what we deliver is in 7 to 8 weeks, 7 to 8 weeks of 2.5 hours every day between Monday to Friday, 5 days. For 7 to 8 weeks, we deliver a course called DevOps, where we train you on the 7 tools along with AWS cloud and Linux. Linux is very important, so I double mark it, make it bold with Linux. So these are not part of DevOps tools, but additionally we will learn AWS and Linux. So apart from 7 tools, this is more than sufficient for, and we have been successful even to make our non-IT guys who does not even have basic knowledge on operating system, cloud is a big thing for them, not even can work on Windows properly. Okay, those guys are now doing a big job in the US market. Okay, and we have been very successful. So we know that we should be very good in AWS. We should be very, very good in Linux and the 7 tools. And what are the 7 tools? This is Terraform. One tool. So this is the logo of Terraform, which is infrastructure as a code tool. You will code the infrastructure. You will create an infrastructure with the help of Terraform over the cloud. Build tool, Maven. We learn Maven. So Maven is a build tool which can compile and put a executable file and the various other artifacts of the Java. It can be a jar file. It can be a WAR file, Wave Archive or Java Application Archive. Okay, Wave Application Archive. And there can be your PHP file. So whatever, you can build it through Maven. And we also do the Sonar Cube, which is a code quality checker. We also do the Nexus, which is a refractory software. Refractory is a big thing, but right now I'm just going through the tools that we are learning. So Maven, Sonar Cube, Nexus, and the version control. We learn Git over here. Git is a version control tool. In the container management, we learn Docker. This is Docker. And this is Kubernetes. In the performance monitoring, we do not learn anything because these monitoring tools are mostly for the operations guy. So if somebody is wanting to go into operations team or work as an operations guy, you must be learning at least one tool. This is a Nagios, but not for us, not for DevOps guys. Nagios or Splunk or what? Prometheus. Prometheus. So these are basically an operations guy should at least have a knowledge on any one of this. Otherwise, they will not get a job. To get a job, any operations guy, today's operations guy has to know all these things. And an operations guy need to know Linux as well and the cloud as well. They cannot work in an operations team without this requisite knowledge. At least Linux, at least one cloud, and at least one of these, either Nagios, Splunk, or Prometheus. So I'm not considering this because we are not learning all this. This is for the operations team. In this configuration management, we will learn Ansible. So, right. This is Chef, but Chef, we are not. Chef is very complicated. Chef, we are not. We are going for the industry accepted, the learning curve is quite small. So this is Ansible. And then we learn, earlier we used to learn Jenkins, but nowadays we are learning GitLab because Jenkins is more or less out of competition against GitLab and Azure DevOps. So what is this? This is a CI/CD pipeline. Continuous integration, continuous delivery and deployment pipelines. So this is a very, very important. Just now you had a cybersecurity session. And in cybersecurity, you need to secure these assets. Whatever the assets have been provided or delivered from these tools. So CI/CD pipeline is one of the biggest asset automation pipeline. You have to know as well as cybersecurity, which is called DevSecOps, to secure your pipelines, the automation pipelines. And the automation pipeline, we are going to learn GitLab, not Jenkins. Okay? Because now GitLab is a competitor to Azure DevOps. Both are having almost similar features, almost equal features. But Azure is coming from a very, very big company called Microsoft. So naturally, they have a very big muscle power in this industry. And we are also planning in our future, within 2 or 3 months, we are going to introduce Azure DevOps in our course. How? I do not know. Because as it is, there are lots of tools. And maybe then we have to increase the time from 8 weeks to at least 12 weeks. Uh, yeah, not even 12 weeks. It can be 10 weeks. Then we can include this thing. So many of our students might not be 10 weeks, can be a bit bigger. So it is almost like 2.5 months. 2.5 months, for many of us, many of the students, it is a big time. Anyway, we will see. We'll see what we will do. So we will introduce Azure DevOps sometime. Testing, of course, Selenium. Selenium, but we are not learning because we are, for any person who is wanting to go into the testing team, must learn either Selenium or JUnit. I will say they must learn Selenium first, because almost 70% of the applications are web applications. So for that, you need an automation tool like Selenium. And the JUnit for Java testing or automation testing, and XUnit. So it will be preferable if a tester can learn all the three of it. Automation tools. We are not learning this. Continuous monitoring, alerting, delivery, all these things are various tools, but that are outside our scope to learn. So now you count 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, for the time being, I'm leaving this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And of course, we are backing them up with a capstone project. Now that will make you an entirely different person once you have done capstone project with us, involving all the tools. So if you count them, so it is 7, 8, 9. 9 tools already. Along with AWS and Linux, it will become 11 tools. It's quite good. Within 7 to 8 weeks, you become a champion. Any question? No question. Are there anybody? I mean, I doubt. How many? Oh, 20 guys. That's good. I'm very happy.
Sir, these sessions, right? Monday to Friday, sir?
No, that is not for the free internship. That is our main program, which is, a job ready program, which is a paid one.
Okay, for free internship, what is the timing, sir?
Free internship, this is my first session on DevOps. Previous to that, it was cybersecurity, 2 hours every Saturday.
So every Saturday,
So,
10 to 11:30?
9:30 to 11:30.
9:30 to
If
11:30.
you're talking about DevOps.
DevOps. Okay, fine, sir. So what's the difference between that? Sir, what's the difference between paid and free, sir? Like what will be changes?
In the pay, you have to pay money.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Let me answer. Mr. Debashish, allow me to answer.
Yeah,
classes
sure,
is only it is a 8 weekend session. So and 2 hours. So you will get hardly 16 hours. So
Right.
And the paid courses is like a 7 weeks daily, 2.5 hours, Monday to Friday, 5 days in a week.
Mhm.
Now, and apart from that, you will have a coursework, you have a live project training, you have a capstone project. So another maybe 60 to 80 hours you need to devote to work on the projects to make your hand dirty. So here in the free classes, we can only give you a high level overview. What you are going to, what will be your day-to-day activities, what will be role and responsibility, how DevOps engineer normally works, what is your, toys
Mhm.
in daily basis. But in a job training, our agenda is to make anyone to prepare for the particular job role. And if they have that kind of, no, you have to attend all the session. You There are certain students that feel that watching the video is good enough to become a master. What I believe is not quite true,
Mhm.
because you have to remember that your computer having 8 9 years of an on domain experience. So somehow you have to be better than them, right?
Yes,
So
yes, yes. So what would be the timing, sir? Like if it is a paid one?
we do have morning batch and evening batch. I'm talking about whenever we are going to talking about timing, all about US Central Time. So which time zone you are in?
So I'm from IST time zone.
IST. So I do. So I'm giving you the one is 6 a.m. IST.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, 6:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. IST. Another
Okay.
one is I think 9 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. To another 2 hours.
Okay. Sir, what's the fee, sir? Because sorry, if you have mentioned it earlier, don't mind. Can
You
you?
can it is varies, so you can check to the like every batches is the prices goes varies, and we do have some coupons and promotional offer. So it is
Uh-huh.
good if you check the price online.
Online, huh? Or else should I ping you, sir, in the WhatsApp?
Yeah, you can ping, but again I will tell you, because even I don't know exact the price, because every time based on the season.
It's a dynamic pricing.
So yeah, holiday season and other coupons. So it's better if you. But our next batch is going to start in the US morning batch. That is your evening batch is going to start in, I think, end of November. The date is not finalized.
Yeah,
See,
yeah, end of November.
we cannot tell the date, because we need to wait until unless the last batch is finalized, right? And we
Okay. No,
don't
you said about IST, right? 6:30 to 9:30 something. So I was looking
6:30
out for that. Yeah, 6:30 to
morning batch.
9. Yeah, yeah, morning. Yeah.
Morning batch is going to start in December,
Oh, it starts in December. Okay, sir.
because we can have like 6 morning batch and 6 evening batch in a whole year, right? Once we
Mhm.
start commence one batches, we need to wait for another 2 months to complete.
Okay, sir. Getting it.
Okay, so
Okay, I have just 1 and 2 slides left, just to summarize it, and then Mr. Menon, you can take over.
sure.
Okay. So I will go back to my slides. Uh, if this is fine, so what I promise is within 7 tools, you can get a job in anywhere in this world. So that is quite a promise, sort of. So I will just discuss. This could be the penultimate slide or the last but one slide. So here we see the various phases. Okay, plan, code, build, test, and you can see these lines, these arrows. One going from this left hand side to the right hand side, and one coming from the right hand side to the left hand side. So it is like that 8. So that horizontal 8. Left hand side is the development side, and the right hand side is the operations side. And you are totally within all of these domains. So in this plan and code, you can see we have clubbed it. You have the Git, which we are going to learn, and the Jira. But in the GitLab is one of the tools for integration, which is your CI/CD pipeline tool. So in that, you already have the features of Jira. So when we learn GitLab, we also will learn a bit of Jira, or I mean the project management utilities, which is already there. So we will not go for Jira, a separate tool, but we will do Git, and then we will have Maven. On the build, we will have Maven. We will learn Maven. In the testing, like the JUnit and Selenium, we are not going to do anything over here. In the deploy, in the meantime, these pipelines are used with the GitLab. Okay, so GitLab pipelines, what you can say. So we learn GitLab, along with which we will also learn the Jira part of it, the project management part of it. On the deploy side, on the deploy phase, which is deploy and operate, we will learn Docker. We will learn Terraform. I have not given the Kubernetes. So Kubernetes will also come in the operate stage, Terraform, Ansible. And as I told you, the monitoring is entirely with the operations team. So either they can go for Splunk or Nagios, but we are not learning that. This is ELK, Elastic Stack. Okay, now that is part of, which is a very important field coming up. It is called SRE, Site Reliability. This is coming up in huge demand engineering. There are 3 items: E for Elastic Stash, then L for Log Stash, and K for Kibana. K for Kibana. And there is also Grafana, you can say. So Kibana, Elastic Stash, and Log Stash. These 3 will combine to make an SRE, Site Reliability Engineering. This is almost like your monitoring things, mostly used by the operations, but this is coming up heavily, highly as a separate subject, SRE. But you cannot do SRE without learning DevOps. That is my take on it. You first learn DevOps, then either graduate to SRE. I will say, instead of going to SRE, because in India, SRE is not that prevalent. So better you go to DevSecOps or cybersecurity. Cybersecurity. That should be the roadmap. If you want to secure a high-paying job where you are already a DevOps guy, and then you have graduated yourself to cybersecurity, where whatever assets that you have created, those assets will be secured using your knowledge of DevSecOps or cybersecurity. And therefore, you can demand a very high salary. And this is this combination, DevOps plus DevSecOps, is a hugely sought after job profile. So this is, as I told you, this part is called continuous development. This part, the build and the test, is called continuous testing. The pipeline is called continuous integration pipeline, CI pipelines. Then deploy and operate is continuous deployment, as well as operate and monitor is continuous monitoring. So everything is continuous. And this is the last slide for our discussion, is the entire life cycle, starting with the developer. So developer will deliver their code into the source control. This is like the GitHub. Okay. So there will be a continuous development. So over a pipeline, this developer will commit or push, basically push all the changes like the Java codes or Python code, whatever the codes they are writing, they will store it with a version control system called GitHub, or it can be GitLab. We are learning both of them, GitHub and GitLab. So, and through the GitLab pipeline, there can be Docker, there can be SonarQube, the tools. There can be Kubernetes, K8s, okay? And there can be Terraform, and there can be Ansible. So with this Docker, and there can be Maven. With the help of Maven, you compile the code or you build the code, and with the Docker, you make it into an image and put that into a container. So the image is your application. So you are containerizing the application, so that will be starting to run in a container. So it's a separate environment. This is the container. This technology we are going to learn how easily you can deploy with as a container to, and with the Terraform you will provision the infrastructure. With Ansible you will configure the infrastructure and deploy. So SonarQube will check the code for the quality. Kubernetes is a container orchestration. So if you have to use a huge network and a huge environment of microservices, you deploy it. It is through the Kubernetes. Clear? So this is through, and then there will be continuous testing and the continuous feedback. You will go and give it back to the developer because there could be some defects. This way the cycle will continue. So when the testing is fine on the test server, it will be deployed to the continuous over the pipeline. See, everything is a pipeline. You can deploy it to the pre-production where you will have the UAT. So you are coming back to the same framework again and again. This much for today. I hope you will find this is quite good and worth learning as a DevOps engineer. I will go back, and I know it's too late in India. It is almost 11:30 p.m. in the night. So we will end the session today. Hope you have enjoyed and you have taken there's a lot of takeaway from this particular session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Debashish.
Yes,
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
So guys, we will take another 2 to 3 minutes because it is a very long session for us as well. So if you have any question, feel free to ask, and thank you for joining. I don't think anyone have any questions so far now. So
Can you just post a YouTube link in the WhatsApp group?
yeah, it
Yes,
will take
yes.
little time to process, and maybe within 1 or 2 days we are going to send 2 links, one for DevOps, one for cybersecurity.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Sir, the capstone project that you mentioned, while presentation, that will be in the paid version.
Yes, yes.